Hello and good morning, and welcome to this class of the Economy Foundation course. I hope you can see and hear me. If you can see and hear me, please write yes in the chat and we'll get started. Okay, great. Hope you are all doing well. Revise किया आप लोगों ने weekend पे? All the things that we had to revise. Did you revise on the weekend? कुछ समझ आया, याद हुआ? अभी तक जितनी भी चीजें हमने पढ़ी हैं, हमने पढ़ी हैं, I am sure you would not have had to mug up anything. I am sure आपको अभी तक कुछ mug up करने की जरूरत नहीं पड़ी होगी. I am almost sure. Right? Now we are only left with these two topics in this batch, and ये भी हम mug up नहीं करेंगे. Right? These are also not things that we will mug up. Okay? So we will not mug these things up also. What we will do is understand everything with regards to taxation and international economics now. Right? Now, सबसे पहले हम start करेंगे with taxation. अब देखो, in today's class, I will request you, very sincerely, I will request you that today at least you write with me. Okay? Especially when I teach you the topic of GST. जब मैं आपको GST पढ़ाऊंगा, बाकी तो चलो सब कुछ हैंड रिटन नोट्स में है, जीएसटी भी है हैंड रिटन नोट्स में, बट टू एक्चुअली अंडरस्टैंड दिस सिस्टम इट इज एक्चुअली अ स्लाइटली कॉम्प्लेक्स सिस्टम. देखो, हमें इतनी डिटेल में समझने की जरूरत नहीं है, ब्रॉडली भी समझ जाएंगे तो भी काम चल जाएगा, बट इट इज वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट बिकॉज लॉट ऑफ क्वेश्चंस हैव कम ऑन जीएसटी. आई थिंक 3 or 4 questions have come in the mains. Question is asked in prelims almost every alternate year on GST. ठीक है, तो what we will be doing is we will be writing this system down. जब मैं ये वाला पार्ट आपको पढ़ाऊंगा, मैं आपको बता दूंगा, just keep a notebook handy with you and we will be writing everything when we are reading this. Okay, when we are reading this we will be writing everything. ठीक है, चलो. Now let us start first with the objective of taxation. अब ये वाला पार्ट आप मुझे पढ़ाओगे. Let's see how much you have revised. Why is tax collected? बताओ, why is tax collected? Any sort of tax, why is it collected? क्यों कलेक्ट किया जाता है टैक्स? अभी लिखना नहीं है, जब लिखना होगा मैं बता दूंगा. ऑलमोस्ट, चलो ठीक है, फाइनली वी गॉट वन राइट आंसर. The only purpose of collection of tax, और ये मैं आपको पहले पढ़ा चुका हूं, the only purpose of collection of tax is the provision of public goods, so that government can produce public goods. Why does government have to produce public goods? Government को क्यों produce करने पड़ते हैं public goods? Why does government have to produce public goods? Because the market fails. याद है हमने पढ़ा था market failure, externalities. Market fails to provide for public goods. Why does market fail? Why does market fail to provide public goods? Market fails to provide public goods because they have a free rider problem. याद करो, ये शुरू में माइक्रो इकोनॉमिक्स में हमने पढ़ा था. There was a free rider problem. You cannot exclude someone from use and nobody will be willing to pay. Therefore government has to collect tax. ये तो है why government has collecting taxes, है ना? अब you need to differentiate this from how government is collecting taxes. How is method of taxation? Method. From this method of taxation, how government chooses to collect tax. हाउ शुड वी कंस्ट्रक्ट दिस मेथड? किस टाइप का मेथड होना चाहिए ऑफ गवर्नमेंट फॉर कलेक्टिंग टैक्सेस? व्हाट मेथड शुड द गवर्नमेंट यूज टू कलेक्ट टैक्सेस? अब ये बताओ, यहां पर कौन सा फंक्शन हम परफॉर्म कर रहे हैं? व्हाट फंक्शन आर वी परफॉर्मिंग हियर? नहीं, आप प्रोग्रेसिव रिग्रेसिव मत बताओ, आप बताओ व्हाट फंक्शन आर वी ट्राइंग टू परफॉर्म हियर? हमने पढ़ा है ये, this is collection function. From collection function what are we trying to do? Good, we are trying to have equity in the distribution of income. Equity in the distribution of income, right? This we have seen collection function of budgeting. Now let's say somebody's income for the year is 10 lakh rupees and the taxation system is like this: 0 to 2.5 lakh 0% tax, 2.5 to 5 lakhs 10% tax, 5 lakhs to 10 lakhs 20% tax. How much tax will this, or wait, 10 lakh to 15 lakhs 30% tax. इनकम 10 लाख से चेंज करके 11 लाख कर देते हैं. इनकम इज 11 लाख. हाउ मच टैक्स इज दिस पर्सन गोइंग टू पे एज पर दिस सिस्टम? एज पर दिस सिस्टम हाउ मच टैक्स इज दिस पर्सन गोइंग टू पे? एक बार ये कैलकुलेट करके बताओ मुझे. यही है टैक्सेबल इनकम, 11 लाख ही है टैक्सेबल इनकम. याद करो हमने पढ़ा था that there are buckets in how taxation is levied. For 11 lakh, if that is the taxable income, for the first 2.5 lakh, no tax will be paid. For the next 2.5 lakh, 10% tax will be paid, that is 25,000. Then for next 5 lakh, how much tax is paid? 20%, which is 1 lakh. Then for next 1 lakh, 30% tax is paid, which is 30,000. The amount of tax that this person is going to pay is going to be 1.55 lakhs. ये पढ़ चुके हैं हम. Have we read this? Bucketing of taxation we have read before. Now, I will give you 3 options. First system is, चलो यही लिख लेते हैं. First system is this system. This is, अब इसको भूल जाओ. Now forget these numbers. Let's say this is system 1. That taxation is like this. This is system 1. System 2 is 0 to 2. Let's say 0 to 2.5 lakhs. Somebody will pay 30% tax. From 2.5 lakhs to 5 lakhs, someone will pay, let's say, 20%. From 5 lakhs to 10 lakhs, they will, let's say, pay 10%. And from 10 lakhs to 15 lakhs, they will pay 5%. Let's say this is the new taxation system. Third taxation system is whatever be your income, you will multiply that by 20% and that will be your tax payment. What are the names of 1, 2 and 3? This is 1, this is 2 and 3. इन तीनों systems के नाम क्या क्या हैं? What are the names of these 3 systems? ये भी हम पढ़ चुके हैं. Very good. First is progressive taxation, second is regressive taxation, third is proportional taxation. Progressive taxation means as your income progresses, you will pay more proportion of your income as tax. As your income progresses, as your progress of income increases, you will pay more proportion of your income as tax. Regressive taxation means as your income progresses, you will pay less proportion of your income as tax. Proportional taxation system means the proportion of tax that you pay is fixed. Even when your income progresses or it is very small, it goes down, it goes up, the proportion of your income is fixed. Right? अब एक क्वेश्चन पूछूंगा और कोई भी उसका गलत जवाब नहीं देगा. ठीक है? प्लीज वर्क हार्ड एंड प्लीज थिंक बिफोर यू आंसर नाउ. इस क्वेश्चन का कोई गलत जवाब नहीं देगा. You will think before you answer. Person 1 has income of 11 lakhs. In person 2 has income of 9 lakhs. This is system 1. This is system 2. In which of these systems? मैं क्वेश्चन बोर्ड पे लिखता हूं. In which of these systems will person earning 9 lakh pay more tax? और एकदम से जवाब मत देना प्लीज. अगर आपने एकदम से जवाब दे दिया तो आपका जवाब गलत ही होगा. आई एम श्योर. आप कैलकुलेट करना. कैलकुलेट द टैक्स दैट person 1 will pay in system 1, person 2 will pay in system 1, person 1 will pay in system 2, person 2 will pay in system 2. एक्चुअली क्वेश्चन यही कर देते हैं, ये हटा देते हैं क्वेश्चन. लेट्स मेक द क्वेश्चन टैक्स लायबिलिटी ऑफ पर्सन 1 एंड पर्सन 2 इन सिस्टम 1 एंड सिस्टम 2. ये आपने बताना है. तो शार मैंने बोला था ना, मत देना जल्दी जवाब. अब कैलकुलेट करो एक बार. आप खुद ही कैलकुलेट करो. यू विल गेट द आंसर. मयूर, योर आंसर इज राइट. कैलकुलेट करो दोनों की टैक्स लायबिलिटी इन सिस्टम 1 एंड सिस्टम 2. देखो 11 लाख के हिसाब से सिस्टम 1 में अगर हम देखें, नाउ टुडे इट इज गोइंग टू बी अ लिटिल बिट कैलकुलेटिव. थोड़ी बहुत कैलकुलेशन आज हमें करनी पड़ेगी. तो इसके लिए मैं चाहूंगा कि आप ध्यान से सुनो. 11 लाख वाला पर्सन यहां पर है. तो पर्सन पेइंग 11 lakhs इज हियर. वी हैव ऑलरेडी कैलकुलेटेड देयर टैक्स लायबिलिटी. हमने अभी कैलकुलेट की थी दैट पहले 2.5 lakhs पे 0, नेक्स्ट 2.5 lakhs पे 10%, so 25,000. नेक्स्ट 5 lakhs पे 10% मतलब 50,000. सॉरी, नेक्स्ट 5 लाख पे 20% मतलब 1 लाख और लास्ट 1 लाख पे 30,000. सो दिस वाज कमिंग आउट टू 1.55. ये तो हमने अभी कैलकुलेट किया ही है. पर्सन 2 का यहां पर इससे कम ही होगा. ऑब्वियसली पर्सन 2 का यहां पर इससे कम ही होगा बिकॉज दे विल बी पेइंग दिस अमाउंट. पर्सन 2 विल पे दिस अमाउंट बट दिस अमाउंट विल बी लेसर. दे विल बी पेइंग 20% ऑफ 4 lakhs, so that will be 80,000. So 25,000 plus 80,000, this will be their tax liability. इतनी ही tax liability होगी, right? तो इसमें तो कोई डाउट ही नहीं है. अब इस सिस्टम को देखते हैं, यही होगी कंफ्यूजन. सो लेट्स लुक एट दिस सिस्टम इन डिटेल. इस सिस्टम को डिटेल में देखते हैं. ठीक है, इस केस में लेट्स लुक एट पर्सन 1. पर्सन 1 ऑन फर्स्ट 2.5 lakhs of his income is paying 30% tax. Person 2 on next 2.5 lakh of his income is paying 20% tax. Person 3 on next 5 lakh of his income is paying 10% tax. And last 1 lakh of his income, he is paying 5% tax. Let's look at person 2. Person 2 in this case, on first 2.5 lakh of his income, he is paying 30% tax. On next 2.5 lakh of his income, he is paying 20% tax. And next 4 lakh of his income, he is paying 10%. Now tell me who will pay more in this system? Now tell me who will pay more? कौन पे करेगा ज्यादा? Who will pay more? Person 1 or person 2? कौन? Who will pay more? Person 1 will pay more. अरे अब कैसे person 2 बोल रहे हो आप? अंजलि कैलकुलेट ना, यहाँ कैलकुलेट करो इन फिगर्स को. ये तो सेम है, ये भी सेम है. यहां पर ही इज पेइंग 4 लाख का 10%, दे आर पेइंग 5 लाख का 10% एंड 1 लाख का 5%. आप लोग P2 कैसे बोल रहे हो इसमें? अच्छा करो कैलकुलेट, करो कैलकुलेट दिस. हु इज पेइंग मोर? यार ऐसे मत करो यार, आज तो फिर क्लास बहुत लंबी हो जाएगी ऐसे करोगे तो. हु इज पेइंग मोर? हु इज पेइंग मोर? पर्सन 1 इज पेइंग मोर और पर्सन 2 इज पेइंग मोर? पर्सन 1 इज पेइंग मोर, इसमें तो कोई डाउट ही नहीं है. चलो कैलकुलेट कर लेते हैं. यहां पर दिस इज 75,000, दिस इज 50,000, दिस इज अगेन 50,000, दिस इज 5,000, this is 75,000, this is 50,000, this is 40,000. Obviously person 1 is paying more ना, person 1 is paying more, है ना. अब किसी को डाउट नहीं होना चाहिए. But person 1 is paying more. Who is paying more proportion of their income is tax? अब नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन मेरा क्या है? अब ये हमने टैक्स लायबिलिटी कैलकुलेट कर ली. Even in this system, person 1 is paying more. Question is, who is paying more proportion of their income as tax? ज्यादा proportion कौन पे कर रहा है टैक्स का? Add this figure. Add this figure. This will be 1.8 lakhs. Add this figure. This figure will be 1.65 lakh. Person 1 is paying 1.8 lakhs divided by 11. Person 2 is paying 1.65 divided by 9. है ना? Who is paying more proportion? ये फिगर बड़ी है या ये फिगर बड़ी है? कैलकुलेटर यूज कर लो, कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है. मैं भी यूज कर लेता हूं. आई एम ऑल्सो बैड एट मैथ्स कैलकुलेशन, सो वील ऑल यूज कैलकुलेटर्स एंड स्पॉइल आवर ब्रेन्स. मैं कर सकता हूं यूज, मुझे नहीं देना सीसैट. आपको नहीं यूज करना चाहिए कैलकुलेटर यहाँ पे. यू शुड डू दिस ऑन योर ओन. यार सीसैट भी तो निकालना है. सीसैट में टफ कैलकुलेशन आती है. आई कैन यूज इट बिकॉज फॉर्चुनेटली आई डोंट हैव टू गिव द सीसैट एनीमोर. यू कांट, है ना. दिस विल कम आउट टू 18.3%. The first one will come out to 16.3%. So who is paying more proportion? Person 2 is paying more proportion of his income as tax. Person 2 is paying more proportion of his income as tax. है ना? अरे नहीं, calculator cannot be used in the exam. ज्योति कैसी बात कर रहे हो? No. ठीक है? This, in this case, person 2 does not have, अब ध्यान से सुनो, now listen carefully. Person 2 does not have more burden of tax. Burden of tax is on person 1. Overall burden अगर मैं देखूं तो person 1 का ज्यादा है. ये फिगर ज्यादा है, 1.8 lakhs versus 1.65 lakhs. But if I look at proportion of taxation, proportion इनकी ज्यादा इनकम का टैक्स हो रहा है. So इससे दो प्रिंसिपल समझ लो. पहले तो फर्स्ट प्रिंसिपल, whoever earns more, चाहे कैसा भी टैक्सेशन सिस्टम हो, whoever earns more will pay more tax. इस केस में हमने क्या देखा? इवन इन रिग्रेसिव सिस्टम, इवन इन प्रोग्रेसिव सिस्टम, पर्सन हु इज अर्निंग मोर इज पेइंग मोर ओवरऑल टैक्स. ओवरऑल टैक्स बर्डन इज मोर ऑन पर्सन हु इज अर्निंग मोर, राइट? सेकेंड थिंग, Second thing that we have to understand is, for the purposes of equity, in the distribution of income, ideally, the proportion of income paid as tax should increase with increase in income. If you have to achieve this purpose of equity in the distribution of wealth, your proportion of income paid should increase, proportion of income paid as tax should increase as your as your income increases. So if for equity purposes, this is a very bad example for equity purposes. If you earn 9 lakh, you are paying 18% of your income as tax. If you pay 11 lakh, if you earn 11 lakh, you are paying 16%. ये बहुत खराब है इक्विटी के हिसाब से. अगर ओवरऑल बर्डन देखो तो ओवरऑल बर्डन तो 11 लाख वाले पे ही ज्यादा है. But from the purposes of equity, it is important that as your income increases, the proportion of your income that you pay as tax should also increase. So ideally for equity, these should not be the numbers. Numbers should be something like 20% of total income, 15% of total income. This should be the number. What does this define? ये जो मैंने टर्म यहां लिखी है, जो मैंने यहां चीज लिखी है, इसको डिफाइन कैसे करेंगे? What is this defining? Is this not defining exactly something called progressive system of taxation? Is this not exactly progressive system of taxation? ये बात समझ आई आपको? So one person who earns more in any system will always pay more tax. If you earn more, you will pay more tax. चाहे system कैसा भी हो. But ideally for the purpose of equity, proportion of income that is paid as tax should increase with increasing incomes. Therefore, for the purpose of equity in the distribution of income, a progressive system of taxation makes more sense. So a progressive system of taxation makes more sense for the purposes of equity in the distribution of income, which is what we are trying to obtain through the collection function. Correct? समझ आई ये बात? पहले प्रोग्रेसिव, रिग्रेसिव, प्रोपोर्शनल ये हम वैसे पहले पढ़ चुके थे, बट इज दिस क्लियर नाउ? इज दिस डिस्टिंक्शन क्लियर? इज दिस लॉजिक क्लियर कि यहां पर क्या बात की गई? Is this logic clear? Okay. Now let us understand taxation in detail. I am now turning the chat off. I will study in the same way that I will ask you whether you have understood after I have taught for 30 minutes. Now, we have already read that tax is a general payment that public makes to the government for provision of public goods. Now, taxes can be classified in various ways. Now, write this thing also down. Write this thing in your notebook. आज आप notebook please रखना, because slightly complex mathematical topic है, इसलिए I'm asking you to write. This is a very important principle and this is always true. Always true. Responsibility of paying tax is always on person on whom tax is levied. जिस पे टैक्स लेवी किया गया है उसी की रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है वो टैक्स पे करना. जिसकी पे here paying means depositing to government. Paying here means depositing it to government. If tax is levied on me, it is my responsibility to deposit on government. If GST is levied on Sarthi IS, it is Sarthi IS responsibility to deposit to government. Responsibility of paying tax, or rather responsibility of depositing tax to government, is always on whom the tax is levied. Always. However, in some cases, it is sometimes allowed for you to shift your burden. In some cases, you can shift this burden on the consumer. In some cases, you are allowed to shift this burden. You are legally allowed to shift this burden. Shift this burden meaning not the function of depositing to government. Deposit तो अभी भी आपको ही करना पड़ेगा. आपके ऊपर टैक्स लगाए, आप ही deposit करोगे. But you can collect this. By shifting of burden means you can collect this payment from someone else. You are legally allowed to transfer the burden. You can collect this tax from someone else. Okay, so you will pay to government, but you will later collect it from someone else, right? In some cases, you are not allowed to do that. There are some cases where it is not allowed to shift burden. आपको आपके ऊपर लेविड है, आपको ही पे करना पड़ेगा. Not allowed to shift burden. These cases where you are not allowed to shift this burden, responsibility, tax is levied on me. Who has the responsibility of paying it? I will always have responsibility of paying it. In some cases, I am allowed to shift the burden. I can collect from somebody else and then pay. In some cases, I cannot shift the burden. I will pay whatever I have. I will pay from that. I cannot collect from someone else. This is the case of direct taxation. Direct taxation. This is the case of indirect taxation. Indirect taxation. Okay. So, चलो मैं आपको एक एग्जांपल देके देता हूं. You go to Haldiram's to eat food. You have gone to Haldiram. Haldiram gives you food. You give certain money to Haldiram. Now, on the sale of this food, Haldiram, let's say, sells you food of rupees 100. On the sale of this food, government says on this sale, we will charge 18% tax. On this sale, we will charge 18% tax. Who is causing this sale? कौन कर रहा है sale? Haldiram is doing the sale. This 18% is levied on Haldiram. We will understand this also. Event of taxation, etc. We'll understand. But Haldiram is selling. So government says whoever sells food will pay 18% tax on value of food. Food value is 100 rupees. You will pay 18% tax. That's fine. So here Haldiram has to pay to government 18 rupees. Now, Haldiram sells food throughout the year. पूरे साल हल्दीराम ने फूड सेल किया. Out of this, Haldiram is also a company. Haldiram will have certain selling that they have done throughout the year. That will be their revenue. They will have certain expenditures, salaries, interest, rent, etc. Whatever is left is profit of Haldiram. From this profit, government says whatever profit you make, 25% of this has to be deposited as tax. So let's say Haldiram has made throughout the year a profit of 1000 rupees. So government will say 25% of this, 250 rupees has to be deposited as tax. Now let's see what happens in the first case. पहले केस में क्या हुआ? पहले केस में Haldiram has sold food of 100 rupees. Haldiram has to deposit tax of 18 rupees. But Haldiram is legally allowed to shift the burden to you. So Haldiram will say, on the bill you will see, Haldiram will give you a bill saying, value of food is 100 rupees. Tax levied on this food is 18 rupees, 18%. You will pay 118 rupees to Haldiram. Haldiram will count 100 rupees in its revenue and give 18 rupees to government. Responsibility of paying tax. Tax was levied on Haldiram, so Haldiram will pay. Is Haldiram allowed to shift the burden? Yes. Burden is shifted by you, so effectively you are paying, but depositing to government, responsibility of depositing, since it was levied on Haldiram, Haldiram will deposit to government. It is their responsibility, it is not your responsibility. In the second case, Haldiram now has some revenue expenditure, they made some profit. Here also, Government is saying that whatever profit you have made, from this profit 250 rupees you have to pay as tax. This responsibility Haldiram cannot shift on you. Haldiram has to pay from its own money, from its own profit. This is direct tax. This direct tax is called corporation tax. This is indirect tax. This indirect tax is called GST. Is this clear? ये समझ आया? Direct indirect tax is clear? Okay, great. चलो आगे चलते हैं. Now, second type of classification of taxation. Second type of classification of taxation is ad valorem or specific. Let's understand this. One is direct or indirect. Second type of tax classification is, so these are ways of classifying tax. Okay. A indirect tax can also be ad valorem. A direct tax can also be ad valorem. An indirect tax can be specific. A direct tax can be specific. One way to classify is who has the responsibility and whether that burden can be shifted or not. Second way of classifying is how tax is levied. Now, there are two ways. One is ad valorem. Ad valorem is simply a word in Latin meaning at value. The second is specific. Specific is meaning that on any other thing other than value. I'll give you an example. Government says, this is a pen. For this pen, if you sell this pen at, or whatever value you sell this pen, for whatever value you sell this pen, you will pay on that value a tax of 10%. So if I sell this pen now for 100 rupees, I will pay tax of 10 rupees. If I sell it for 200 rupees, I will pay tax of 20 rupees. Simply tax on value. The other way is government says, if the pen has a length of 1 meter, or 1 meter is too much. If a pen has length of 15 centimeter, we will take 10% tax. If the pen has length of more than 15 centimeter, we will take 20% tax. Now, this is also, you might feel ये भी percentage terms में है, but is this imposed on? ये वैल्यू पे इंपोज नहीं हुआ है. वैल्यू ऑफ सेल पे अगर टैक्स इंपोज होगा, इफ इट इज एट वैलोरम एट वैल्यू ऑफ सेल, then it is ad valorem tax. Any other characteristic, government says for blue pens we will charge 10%, for red pens we will charge 15%, or government says that there is any pen in the world, you make a pen, you will give rupees 10. कोई भी वैल्यू हो, कुछ भी हो, कैसा भी कलर हो, you will give rupees 10. This is specific taxation. This is ad valorem, at value. If you are paying tax as a measure of value of sale, then it is ad valorem. Otherwise, all other taxes are specific tax. Okay. Now, another way of classifying tax. यहाँ पर examples दिए हैं, right? Examples दिए. Now, another way of classifying tax is based on event of taxation. This is important. Event of taxation. Now, this is an important concept that you have to understand. बहुत important concept है, most लोगों को ये बात नहीं पता होती. Any tax that is levied on a certain event. Any tax that is levied on a certain event. कोई event होगा, the moment that event is happening, जैसे ही वो event हुआ, a tax liability is created. The moment an event happens, a tax liability is created. Tax liability meaning you are now liable to pay this tax. You are now responsible to pay this tax. It is event of taxation. जैसे ही कोई event हुआ, this event happens, whoever, और चलो देखेंगे responsibility किसकी है. The moment this event happens, you have a tax liability that gets generated. All taxes can be understood in terms of event of taxation. Now let's understand what are the various type of taxes based on various events of taxation. कोई event हुआ, जैसे ही वो event होगा, you will have a tax liability, you will have to pay certain tax. We are going to understand various type of taxes based on events of taxation. based on events of taxation. Now, first tax that all of us have heard is called income tax. Income tax. Income tax is a tax that is levied on event of income. The event here is earning income. अभी मैं ब्रॉडली समझा रहा हूं, अभी हम एग्जामिशन उसमें नहीं जा रहे, वो भी हम सीखेंगे, बट अभी आई एम टेलिंग यू ब्रॉडली हाउ टैक्सेस आर लेविड. You earn certain income. The moment you earn income, I have earned certain income. The moment I earn certain income, I will be taxed. ये event हो गया. The moment this event happens, a tax liability gets created. चलो, अब मैं आपको एक क्वेश्चन पूछता हूं आपसे, एंड अगेन सोच के जवाब देना. Your parents give you ₹20,000. इनकम टैक्स इन द कंट्री इज 10%. प्रोपोर्शनल इनकम टैक्स है 10% का. यू हैव अर्न्ड दिस इनकम. इफ यू हैव अर्न्ड दिस इनकम, व्हाट इज योर टैक्स लायबिलिटी? इन दिस केस, व्हाट इज योर टैक्स लायबिलिटी? इवेंट ऑफ इनकम इज देयर, देन व्हाट इज टैक्स लायबिलिटी? बताओ कितनी टैक्स लायबिलिटी है? गुड, थैंक यू, थैंक यू. इट्स 0. वेरी गुड, थैंक यू. Because this is not income. This is not income. This is merely a transfer payment. We have read this before. This is merely a transfer payment. Transfer payment means done without exchange of factors of production. When is income earned? Income is earned when you exchange factors of production. Here, no factor of production is exchanged, so this is not income, right? Now, I work at Sarthi IS. Sarthi IS pays me certain income. I am giving my labor here, and I am receiving wages in return. Whatever wages I receive, on this, now an income event has been created. When this income event has been created, now I have to pay an income tax. I am liable to pay an income tax now because there is an event of income. So this is the first type of event of taxation based thing. ये चार्ट हम एंड में देखेंगे. Let's first see the various types of taxes. One is income tax. Income earned from any source, but there should be income. Income earned from any source. Who is levying the tax? Who? देखो, एक there is a center government, there is a state government, there is a local government. All governments can have the idea of levying tax, of collecting this tax, etc. So first is income tax. Income tax. Who is earning income? I am earning income. The moment I earn income, an event of taxation is created and a tax is levied. Who is levying this tax? Central government is levying this tax. Who is paying the tax? Person who causes this event to happen. हर जगह यही होगा. Person who causes this event, person who brings this event, that is the person who will pay the tax. So who is causing this event? I am causing this event by working. I worked, I generated income. I generated income. Now I will have to, because I caused this event, I will have to pay my liability of income tax. So who is the bearer of burden? Earner. Earner of income is bearer of burden. So I have to pay income tax. Second is corporate income tax. Corporate income tax. Name is very clear. Let's say there is a company, like we took the example of Haldiram here. I earn income. I earn salary. What does a company earn? What does a company earn? A company earns profit. Company earns profit. Humans, individuals earn salaries. Companies earns profit. When company earns this profit, then this company, on this earning, the moment company earns some profit, a liability is created. This event of earning of company is there. Event is company earning profit. Who caused this event? Company itself. कंपनी ने बिजनेस किया, therefore company earned profit. Now on this profit, this is company's income. On this profit, company will pay income tax. So we will call it company's income tax. Company's income tax or simply corporate tax. So company will pay corporate tax in this case. जैसे यहां पर मैंने 25% on profit, in tax on income of company. Income of company is profit. Income tax, tax of income of individuals. Whatever I earn is my income. Whatever company earns is its profit. We will levy a tax on profit. Let's say this profit is 20% or this in corporate income tax is 20%. Now let's see what happens in this case. Haldiram's profit for the year, let's say, is 1000 crores. Okay. Now, corporate income tax in India is at the moment 25%. So, Haldiram will pay 250 crores as tax. Okay. Now, from here we have to understand a new concept called exemptions. Exemptions. पहले इंडिविजुअल के लिए समझते हैं, फिर हल्दीराम के लिए समझेंगे. Let's say whatever income I make, let's say my income is 1000 rupees. Okay. Now, government will say that not all of this 1000 rupees we will tax on. We will not tax all of this 1000 rupees because we want to encourage your spending in certain areas. When government takes away income tax, it encourages consumption. Remember the determinants of aggregate demand. जब income tax कम होता है तो consumption बढ़ती है. Government wants me to spend more on, let's say, health, spend more on education. So government wants to increase my consumption, but specific sectors like health, like education, like health insurance, like let's say donation to political parties, government wants to say that you should do this more. So government will say that this is your income. We are not taxing your whole income. We will not tax you on 1000 rupees. Out of this, we have certain exempted categories. Exempted categories of expenditure. For example, buying health insurance, buying education, buying, let's say, donating to political parties, donating to NGOs. Government will say that if you do all of this expenditure, of course there will be limits to it. There will be limits. ऐसा नहीं कि मैं 1000 में से 1000 की health insurance खरीद लूंगा तो I will get no tax. There will be limit to it. There will be limit. But broadly, government says if you do expenditure in these areas, then that part of your consumption or that part of your income I will not tax. So government says that let's say I have spent 50 rupees on health insurance, 50 rupees on education, 100 rupees on donation to political parties, 100 rupees to donation to NGOs. Now government will see that, okay, government will say, okay, you have spent on these exempted categories. On these exempted categories, you have spent a total of 300 rupees, 100 plus 100 plus 50 plus 50. On these 300 rupees, we will not charge any tax. So we will first calculate something called your taxable income. What part of your income is actually taxable? How does government calculate taxable income? Income minus exemptions. So my income was rupees 1000. My exemptions, now my exemptions are 300. So my taxable income becomes rupees 700. Now on this 700, this will go into various buckets. Now it will go into various buckets and government will levy tax. Fair? So in this case, government first calculates exemptions, right? Once government calculates exemptions, then government calculates income minus exemptions as taxable income. then on taxable income, government will, on that bucketing system, now government will levy certain tax. Now, same case let us see with Haldiram. Haldiram has earned profit of 1000 crores. Haldiram also has certain exemptions. 1000 crores is profit of Haldiram or income of Haldiram. Government allows certain exemptions. Let's say things like employees benefit. Haldiram says that we are opening a crèche in our offices for females who have children with them. They can, come to the office regularly, and for their children we have crèches. We are opening a gym in our office so that our employees are more fit, right? On investments, Haldiram says that we are going to invest out of this 1000 crores, we are going to invest 200 crores in opening a new branch. On investment, on bonuses given, on certain bonuses. Details are not important, just an example. Now, Haldiram says that my profit was 1000 crores. I have spent on employees benefit a total of 250 crores. On investment, I have spent a total of 250 crores. And now my taxable profit, like taxable income, my taxable profit is rupees 500 crores. Out of this 500 crores, 25% is my taxation rate. So 25% taxation rate, as per this, it becomes 125 crores of profit. Okay. Now, what was happening was that people were misusing this exemption, especially in the case of companies. In the case of companies, it is very easy to misuse this exemption. How? Ideas mat le lena isse. Just telling you that it can be misused. It can be misused. You can show employees benefit as basically anything. आप कुछ भी employees benefit के लिए कर लो, even if you are doing it for your own benefit. You can show this as investment. आप bonuses दिखा के किसी को भी दिखा दो. आप अपने ही relatives को अपने employees दिखा दो. There are various ways. So this was being misused. So government said one way is you go through this process. This is one way. But we are also getting a new system called minimum alternate tax. MAT, minimum alternate tax. Minimum alternate tax is that whatever your total profit before exemptions, total profit before exemptions. Here total profit before exemption is 1000 crores. You can claim as many exemptions as you want. That is totally up to you. But after claiming these exemptions, if the final income tax that you are paying is less than 18%, then you will have to pay 18%. I'll repeat, what does that mean? Government says we are giving a new system called minimum alternate tax, an alternate system of taxation, meaning that 18% of your total profits, not your taxable profit, 18% of your total profit must always come as tax. So in this case, out of total profit, after claiming exemptions, out of total profit, Haldiram was paying 125 crores. This is 12%, 12.5%. Government says you are misusing these exemption provisions. Therefore, you can claim whatever exemptions you want, but minimum you must pay 18% of your total tax figure as tax. This is minimum alternate tax. This is a way for government to stop this abuse of exemptions. जो लोग exemptions को abuse करते हैं उसको रोकने का एक बहुत अच्छा तरीका है. So in this case, what is the minimum tax that Haldiram will have to pay? Haldiram will have to pay 180 crores. Haldiram cannot pay less than 180 crores in any case whatsoever. Now, income tax, event of taxation, earned income, levying entity, center, responsibility to pay, earner, and who is bearing the actual burden? Also earner. Responsibility to pay, earner. Actual burden means I am actually paying. So this is a direct tax because person who has responsibility to deposit to government and person who is actually paying out of pocket is the same person. Same. Corporate income tax. Profits of company reported under Income Tax Act. Living entity center. Responsibility of paying to company or paying to center is of the company itself. Who is paying? Company is paying from own profits. Direct tax called corporate income tax. Third, minimum alternate tax. If corporate income tax is less than 18% of profits reported, 18% से कम हो जाता है total profits का, then you go under this system. Who is levying this? Center is levying this. Center is levying this. Who has the responsibility to pay? Company has responsibility to pay. Who is actually bearing? Company is bearing. So this is also direct tax. This is direct tax. Almost all direct taxes, almost all direct, I'm saying almost all direct taxes are paid directly to the central government. So almost all the direct taxes in the country are levied by the central government. There is only one exception. The one exception is professional tax. Professional tax is, अब हर टैक्स को हम कैसे डिफाइन करेंगे? टैक्स ऑन एन इवेंट. प्रोफेशनल टैक्स इज टैक्स पेड ऑन द इवेंट ऑफ registering as a professional in that state. For example, I am a doctor. My registration currently is in Delhi, right? I can register in any state of India. I can register in all states of India because of my degree. I am allowed to practice medicine in all states. Today, let's say I go and register in Haryana. I go and register in Haryana as a doctor. On this event of registering, state government, because I'm registering in a state government can charge from me a professional tax. Who is the tax being levied on? The person who is causing the event. Who is causing the event? I am causing the event of registering because I am a professional. Tax is levied on me. Responsibility to deposit is mine. Who is actually bearing it? From whose pocket money is going? Mine. So it is a direct tax. This tax is the only direct taxes that the states can levy. And this is capped in the constitution. In the constitution, there is a limit of rupees 2500 on this. So as you can see, this is a very small tax. Since this is very small, states do not levy it anyway. States levy ही नहीं करते इस tax को generally, but this you need to know as an exception that there is only one direct tax that goes directly to the state, which is professional tax. No other direct tax goes to the states. All other direct taxes go to the center. Now, let us understand some other direct taxes. We have understood income tax. These are again examples that I would like you to read. Again, we've understood corporation tax. We've understood minimum alternate tax. Now, let's understand capital gains tax. When we were reading asset prices, interest rates, right? हमने क्या सोचा था? Expectation of capital gains. We had read this term. Expectation of capital gains. That is why we calculated the speculative demand for money. That is how we calculated the speculative demand of money. Expectation of capital gains. That was the idea. Now we will understand the idea of capital gains. For example, I buy Reliance Industries Limited share for rupees 1200. हमने ये share देखा है 1200 rupees का है, right? I buy this share for 1200 rupees. This makes me a part owner. Even if it's 0.00001%, I am a part owner now of Reliance Industries, right? As a part owner, I will get certain dividend also. Share of the profits I will get certain dividend, right? इसको अभी साइड कर देते हैं. Let's forget about this for a moment. I am part owner. I now sell this share for rupees 1250. I now sell this share for 1250. I have sold an asset, an ownership instrument. I had an instrument of ownership. I have now sold this asset at a higher price than I got it. I got this for 1200 rupees, this instrument of ownership. Now I'm selling this at 1250. What are the gains in my capital account? In my capital account, what are the gains? I have sold an asset for a higher price. So I have gained capital of 50 rupees. Now this 50 rupees is also part of my income. Technically, this is part of my income. This is the money I have earned. But this is counted separately. This is gain on assets sold. I sell a house. I had gotten that house for 100 rupees. I am now selling that house for 200 rupees. I am getting this benefit. I am getting this money extra. I am making a profit. I am making something called capital gains. In my capital account, there is now a gain of 50 rupees. I am making capital gains. From this capital gains, now I have to pay tax. Now, there are two types of capital gains. One is short-term capital gains. One is long-term capital gains. अभी मैं आपको किसी भी तरह की टैक्स स्लैब्स कि किस शॉर्ट टर्म कैपिटल गेन्स कितना है, लॉन्ग टर्म कैपिटल गेन्स कितना है, these tax slabs I will recommend that you should not remember at the moment. We will see them after this year's budget. It is possible that all of them change. तो बजट से पहले उनको पढ़ने का कोई लॉजिक नहीं है. तो we will not study exactly अभी कितना है. We will just study the ideas, concepts right now. Then when the current affairs come, then I'll teach you that. है ना? But अभी के लिए, just for purposes of your understanding, long-term capital gains is defined as gains on assets held for more than 1 year. Short-term capital gains is defined as gains on assets held for less than 1 year. This is in terms of shares. In terms of shares, ये अलग-अलग हैं हर asset के लिए, but we will see this when this year's budget comes. Now, on short-term capital gains, let's say I have made 50 rupees gains. I have made these gains in only 1 day. मैंने आज शेयर खरीदा, कल बेच दिया. This is short-term capital gains. I will pay a tax of 20%. So how much will I have to pay? I will have to pay 10 rupees. On long-term capital gains, I will pay a tax of 12.5%. Now, you remember there was an indexation controversy. हमारी बात भी हुई है इस बारे में. बजट के टाइम पे बहुत कंट्रोवर्सी हुई थी इंडेक्सेशन की. मैंने आपको कहा था जब मैं आपको कैपिटल गेन्स पढ़ाऊंगा, then I'll tell you that controversy in detail. Now, what was that controversy? What was that controversy? Let's say I bought a house in the year 2000 for rupees 1000. ठीक है? I sell that house in 2024. In 2024 for rupees 20,000. This is an asset. This house is an asset. On selling of this asset, I have made certain gains. So I have made certain capital gains here. Definitely, I have made certain capital gains here. How will these capital gains be calculated for the purpose of taxation? That is the question. How will you calculate what is my capital gains for the purposes of taxation? One way to calculate is you are selling for 20,000. You had purchased for 1,000. Therefore, your capital gains are 19,000 rupees. On this 19,000, now you pay a tax of 12.5% or whatever is the capital gains rate, you pay this. This is one way. There is one other way of calculating. One other way of calculating this is indexing this with inflation. Inflation indexing. We know what indexing means. Linking to a statistic and deriving a value. We know what inflation means. Indexing with inflation. So what I will do is, I will say that this house was 2000, in the year 2000, this house was 1,000 rupees. Over time, there has been an inflation of 5% in housing prices. There has been a housing inflation of 5%, and this I can calculate. We have various measures to calculate this. Government will say that in 2001, even though you did not sell it, आपने सेल नहीं किया हो 2001 में, but the fair market value of this house was 1000 plus 5% inflation. So in 2001 this house was priced at 1050, क्योंकि inflation हो रही है, right? So government will index that inflation into the price of this house. Government will say in 2000 this was 1000 rupees. In 2001 it was 5% plus this. 5% कहां से आया? This is the inflation in housing prices that is happening. Government will say now it is worth 1050. Similarly, government will keep putting 5% every single year. Government will keep putting 5% every single year. Now government will say that in 2024 the inflation indexed value of this house is rupees 15,000. This is the inflation indexed value of this house. अगर मैं inflation के साथ देखूं तो इसकी actual value इतनी है. This will not be the figure. I'm just giving an example. Now government will say you are selling it for 20,000. So your actual capital gains now are rupees 5,000. On this, pay a capital gains tax. Now, capital gains tax is different for whichever asset you buy. If you are buying a house, there is different capital gains. For asset, there is different capital gains. Of share market, there are different capital gains. And we'll read after this year's budget. There's no point of reading now. Now, why this controversy happened was, government said that earlier capital gains on property was, let's say, 20% with indexation. Government said we will reduce capital gains to 12.5% but remove indexation benefits. This was the controversy that was created. तो अभी तक हमने क्या क्या पढ़ा है? We have read what is direct taxation. Direct taxes में we have understood income tax, corporate income tax, minimum alternate tax, professional tax, long-term capital gains, short-term capital gains tax. These are direct taxations. We have also read the concept of event of taxation. We also know that this professional tax is the only direct tax that's levied by states. Okay? Just one more thing. Now let's see this table. This table is very important for understanding entire taxation. देखो, there is an event of taxation. कोई event हुआ जिस पे tax है. Government decides these events. Event of taxation is, let's say, earning of income. There is a causer of this event of taxation, person who causes this event to happen. Earning of income is the event of taxation. Who is the causer? I am the causer of this event of taxation. I can pay this tax by myself. I can pay this tax. Tax is now generated. जैसे ये event हुआ, tax liability is generated. I am the person who has caused this event. I can pay this tax by myself. This will become direct tax. I can charge this tax on someone else, and legally, I'm speaking legally, this will become indirect tax. Now, this tax would be levied by some authority. Some or the other authority would be levying this tax. Some or the other authority will be collecting this tax, जिस पे मुझे responsibility होगी ये tax देने की. Now, this authority could be either central government, either state government, or local government. So they must have been given some power by constitution or law, right? So this is levying authority. It is also possible that this authority, after collecting this tax, actually gives it to someone else. Central government collects but gives to states, does not use it. So that is called appropriating authority. That is also something we'll understand. This part you can leave for now. This part you can leave. But is this much and all the taxes that we have read so far, ये जो structure है and all the taxes that we have read so far, clear and clear logically. रट के तो clear नहीं हो रहा ना. Logically is it clear? Event of taxation, who causes it, how taxes are levied. Are the basics clear now? ये समझ आ गया? ठीक है. अब एक काम करते हैं, क्लास में ही रिवाइज करेंगे. आई एम गिविंग यू अ 3-4 मिनट ब्रेक. 4 मिनट का ब्रेक ले लो, 3 मिनट ले लो, 4 मिनट ज्यादा है. We'll give you a 3-minute break. There are some taxes written on the board. In all of these taxes, write three things: event of taxation, who pays tax, who levies tax. इन तीनों में, इन चारों में या जो भी ये taxes हैं, actually 1 2 3 4 5 6 taxes are there. Write event of taxation in your notebook. Event of taxation, who levies tax, and who actually pays tax. ठीक है, ये लिखो. ऑल राइट, आई होप आप लोगों ने लिख लिया हो. अब आगे बढ़ते हैं. Yeah, let's read. Now, ये taxation हो गई. This is direct taxation. So far we have read direct taxes. Now we will read indirect taxes, where responsibility of paying an actual burden is not the same. Responsibility of paying is of someone else. Money is going from somebody else's pocket. Again, there will be some event of taxation. From that event, a tax liability will be created. From that tax liability, somebody will pay that tax, somebody will have responsibility to deposit, but responsibility of depositing will be different, and whose actual money is going, that will be different. वो देखते हैं. One such indirect tax is production. Tax on production called excise duty. The moment something is produced, let's say, or let's say apple. Apple produces a laptop. Apple produces a laptop. The moment this laptop is produced, an event of taxation is generated. Event here is production. On this production, there is a tax. On this event, there is a tax called excise duty. Excise duty. Now, this excise duty, Apple says that excise duty has been levied on us. Responsibility of depositing this excise duty to the government is of Apple. But when Apple sells this laptop to you, let's say this laptop's value is 1000 rupees. Excise duty is 10%. When Apple sells this laptop to you, Apple will say that cost of laptop is 1000, tax is at 10% equal to 100, and you will pay 1100. Who is actually paying the tax? You are paying. Burden is on consumer. Actual burden is on consumer. Who has to deposit this to? You will give 1100 to Apple. Apple will keep 1000 and deposit 100 to the government. So responsibility of depositing is of Apple, but actual burden is yours. Responsibility of depositing is of Apple. This is the case of indirect taxation. First such indirect taxation is excise duty. Now there is excise duty no longer exists. आज की डेट में इंडिया में कोई excise duty नहीं है, but other than certain things, but we'll see this. हम GST regime जब समझेंगे, we'll see this. But we need to understand this to understand what GST is. So this is excise duty. Second, there is also another event that has happened here. This is one event. Another event has happened here. The other event that has happened here is called sale. An event of sale has also happened here. On this event of sale, there is another tax. On this event of sale, there is another tax of 10%. Let's say event of sale, another tax of 10%. Who has to collect this tax? This tax is collected by state government. So now what will Apple do? Apple will say that firstly, what is the value we have to deposit to central government? 1000 plus 100 excise duty. 100. Then there is this we have to deposit, 100 we have to deposit to central government. Now there is a sale. What is the value of sale? What is the value of sale in this case? Value of sale is whatever you are paying. Whatever you are paying is value of sale. You pay 1000 plus 100. So value of sale is 1100. Here the event of sale has happened. The value of sale is 1100. State government will say deposit 10% of value of sale to us. So what will be sales tax? This is known as sales tax. On this value of sale, state government will say deposit to us 10% tax. Value of sale is 1100. You have to deposit 10% of value of sale, which is 110 rupees. So what will you actually be paying? You will be paying 1210 rupees. Out of this, Apple will keep 1000 rupees for itself, deposit 100 rupees to central government as excise duty, deposit 110 rupees to state government as sales tax. So sales tax is also an indirect tax. Let's look at the third indirect tax now. यहां पर एक प्रॉब्लम हुई है, उस प्रॉब्लम को हम समझेंगे, बट अभी हम ब्रॉडली समझते हैं. We'll understand the problem. One problem has been created here. We'll understand that. So one is sales tax. One is excise duty. Now, third type of such event is change of boundary. It can be change of international boundary. It can be change of state boundary. Now, change of boundary. You say to Amazon that I want to get a book from USA to India. Book is currently in USA. Book is in USA. You say to Amazon, I want to get this book to India. You ask for this order. Amazon brings this book. And now this book has entered India. Let's say the value of this book was 500 rupees. Amazon now brings this book to India, and Amazon now sells this book to you. Who has caused or who has actually changed the boundary? Amazon has changed the boundary. So responsibility of depositing this. Let's say government says that on changing of boundary of a book from USA to India, we will levy a 10% tax. This is known as custom duty. Who has actually changed the boundary? Amazon took this book from USA and got to India. So Amazon will have responsibility of paying this 10% to government. Amazon will pay this 10% to government. Okay. But who will pay the burden? You have told Amazon to bring this to India. Otherwise, Amazon was not bringing it to India. So Amazon will say, this book was worth 500. An additional burden was created on us to pay 10% of this 500 to the government. So we will add 50 rupees and you will finally pay 550 rupees. 500 for the book and 50 as customs duty. Because there is a change of boundary, change of international boundary. This is the concept of customs duty. Government can put different customs duty on various different things. Books per different, medical devices per different, let's say mics per different, watches per different. Government can put various custom duties on various things. Okay, so this is the idea of customs duty. Now, who is the responsibility there of depositing the tax to government? It is Amazon. Who is actually being the burden? किसकी पॉकेट से पैसा जा रहा है? You. So this is also an indirect tax called customs duty. Who levies customs duty? Since it is international boundary, it is obvious that it will be central government. It will be central government who levies this. And it will go to central government. Now, similarly, there can be a change of boundary within India also. Change in boundary from one state to the other. Change in boundary of some municipal boundary, where there is some municipal authority and there is change of boundary there. This can also be there. This type of tax, same, the event is same, change of boundary is there. The event is the same. This type of tax is called octroi or entry tax. For example, when you go from Gurgaon to Delhi, when I go from Gurgaon to Delhi, the Municipal Corporation of Delhi says that if you are changing this boundary of a commercial vehicle, if you are coming in a commercial vehicle from some other part of India to Delhi, some other commercial vehicle meaning you are coming from, let's say, a taxi from Gurgaon to Delhi, there has been a change of boundary of a commercial vehicle. Whoever changes this boundary will give to MCD, this municipal corporation, rupees 100. You will give rupees 100 to MCD once you change this boundary. Let's say I have booked an Uber cab. Who is actually changing the boundary of that commercial vehicle? Uber. So it is now Uber's responsibility to deposit this 100 rupees to the government. But who has caused this? किसने करवाया Uber से ये change? मैंने करवाया. So Uber will say to me now that your fare your taxi fare was, let's say, 500 rupees. There is also an additional burden that was created on the account of this law, on this octroi, and we have now put rupees 100 more on you. So you will pay rupees 600. This is octroi or entry tax, levied by either state governments or levied by municipal governments. Okay. Now, is this clear so far? Broadly समझ आ रहा है क्या चल रहा है अभी? This is an important topic and we are going slow because I want you to understand the details of everything. Is this clear? Various other types of taxes? ठीक है. Now let's continue. Now, sales tax. Sales tax is levied by state. Sales tax is levied by state, right? Wherever the sale will happen, event of taxation is sale. Wherever the sale will happen, that state will collect sales tax. Sale happens here, state will collect sales tax. Okay. Now, let's say a car is produced in Rajasthan. But it is sold. It is sold in Haryana. Car is produced in Rajasthan. It is sold in Haryana. Now, who will collect the sales tax here? Who will collect the sales tax here? There is interstate sales, right? Haryana government has to collect this. If there is sales tax, state decides sales tax. Haryana government can choose to put whatever tax. Haryana government can also put an entry tax. Okay, so good has entered from Rajasthan to Haryana. Haryana government can put an entry tax. Haryana government will also levy a sales tax because sales event is happening here. Now, this we have seen. We are now seeing the concept of interstate sale. We have seen excise duty. We have seen customs duty. We have seen sales tax. Now, let's look at interstate sale. Now, Haryana government can levy a sales tax here. And it is completely as per Haryana government's discretion. So it is possible that Haryana government says that if a good is coming from Rajasthan, we will levy 20% sales tax. If a good is coming from UP, we will levy 15% sales tax. Good is coming from Madhya Pradesh, we will levy 40% sales tax. What will this create? This will create a fragmentation of the economy. India will not have a unified economy. India's economy might get fragmented. So against this, there is a provision in the constitution. What is the provision? No law of state shall impose or authorize the imposition of a tax on the sale or purchase of goods where such sale or purchase takes place outside the state or in the course of imports of good or exports of good out of the territory of India. So firstly, you cannot levy a tax outside the state. There is also something called Article 301 to 308 of the Constitution. This is there to prevent fragmentation. It is said that interstate sale, if there is interstate sale, you cannot levy a differential tax. You cannot say that there are various articles here. These are for economic unification of India. I hope आप लोगों ने पढ़ रखे हो. Full faith and credit clause is here. Interstate trade and commerce is here. Various other things are here. If there is interstate sale, Haryana government cannot levy this tax. They cannot say that, okay, for Rajasthan goods we will take this much, for Punjab goods we will take this much. They can't do this. There needs to be a uniformity here. If there is no uniformity here, India's economic system will get fragmented. for the purpose of this uniformity, on interstate sales, produced somewhere else, sold somewhere else, it was decided that this tax will be collected by the central government. Central government will collect this tax. It was called central sales tax. And central government will collect it at the same rate. Central government will not differentiate. Good is going from Rajasthan to Haryana, going from Punjab to Haryana, Haryana to Odisha. Central government will not differentiate. Central government will simply levy something called central sales tax at the same rate. Then central government will transfer this to the state where the sales have happened. Then they will transfer this to Haryana. This is just being done so that there is uniformity, so that Haryana will not make a law that for Madhya Pradesh goods this is the tax, for Punjab goods this is the tax. For this purpose, we said that on interstate sale, the money will be collected by central government. After collection by central government, called central sales tax, there will be then transfer of this money to Haryana. Who is the levying authority now? Central government is the levying authority. Who is actually getting the tax finally? Haryana is getting the tax. Haryana is called appropriating authority. अब वो समझ आया that levying authority can be different, actual user can be different. But when does this happen? This happen in the case of interstate sales. Why does it happen in the case of interstate sales? So that there is uniformity and no fragmentation in the country. So one type of another tax is central sales tax, but it is transferred to the state later. Only for uniformity, central government will collect it. So we have seen this type of tax also called central sales tax. Central sales tax levied by the center but given to the selling state in its entirety. इसको please don't confuse this. Please don't confuse this with finance commission grants that are totally different. ये center बस collect करके selling state को दे देता है. Now, there is a problem in our system of indirect taxes. There is a huge problem in our system of indirect taxes. There are various taxes like excise duty, customs duty, octroi, sales tax. There were various other taxes also. Entertainment tax, luxury tax, etc., etc. But there was a problem in this system. Now, I am giving you 1 minute to identify the problem here. In this case, identify what problem has been created from an economic point of view. Remember this case? Apple produces laptop for rupees 1000. One event is production. On this production, there is a excise duty. Excise duty is 10%. Apple takes 100. Apple now has to deposit 100 rupees to central government. Okay. Now, second event here is sale. Sale value was 1100. On this sale, to state government, certain tax has to be deposited. That is 10% of sale value. So 10% of 1100, which is 110. So you will ultimately pay 1210 rupees. One problem has been created here. You have 1 minute. Identify what problem is there. There is some problem in this calculation. Tell me what is the problem here. From this moment forward, in today's class, from this moment forward, you will write everything I write. You will write everything I write from this moment forward. Tell me the problem that has been created here. क्या दिक्कत आ गई? बताओ. Good. There was taxation on tax. No, this is not double taxation. This is tax on tax. This is not double taxation. Double taxation is something else. Tax on tax is something else. We will now understand both of those terms. Now we'll take a different example. From that example, we'll understand. आपने दोनों problem ठीक बताई हैं, but here there is no problem of double taxation. I'll tell you why. And from this moment forward, write with me. Okay, from this moment forward, write with me. Apple creates a laptop for 1000 rupees. Apple produces a laptop for 1000 rupees. Here what happens, there is an event called production. On any production there is excise duty. Excise duty is at 10%. So 100 rupees have to be now given to central government. Okay. Apple sells this. Apple sells this to, let's say, a distributor. A distributor. Distributor will purchase this for 1100. On the value of the sale, let's assume that there is a sales tax of 10%. 10% sales tax. What is the distributor going to pay now? Distributor is going to pay 1100 plus 110. He is going to pay 1210. So distributor has paid 110 rupees to Apple. Oh, sorry, 1210 rupees to Apple. Okay. Now, distributor also will do some changes. He also has a shop. He has to buy from Apple, then distribute in various parts of India, make some profit. So the value added by him. We have read concept of gross value added, right? But let's say value added. Value that is added by distributor in his profit, everything is 90 rupees. Value added by him is 90 rupees. Now, for what value will he sell this? You are the now consumer. You are buying from distributor. From what value at what value will he now sell this? He has paid 1210 earlier. He has added value of himself, his profit, his cost of distribution, everything. He has added value of rupees 90. At what value will he sell now? He will sell at a value of rupees 1300. Another event of taxation is created here. What is that event of taxation? That event of taxation is sale. On this sale, what taxation has to be levied? 10% of value, which is 130 rupees. So you will pay now, what will you pay? You will pay rupees 1300 plus rupees 130. This is what you will pay. This is the tax you will pay, and you will pay in total 1430 rupees. This is the amount you will pay. For now, this is the system. Let us break down this 130. This 130 that you pay, let us break this down. All tax rates are 10%. यहाँ पे भी 10% है, यहाँ पर भी 10% है. What are you paying? This 130 is 10% of 1300, which is 10%. Now let's break down this 1300. ये 1300 की वैल्यू को ब्रेक डाउन करते हैं. इस 1300 की वैल्यू को ब्रेक डाउन करते हैं. Where has this 1300 come from? You are actually paying 10% off. 10% off. 10% into 1000 rupees, which was the value that Apple paid. 100 rupees, which was the excise duty paid by Apple. Plus, then here, in this case, you are also paying 10% on these two. आपने पहले 10% यहाँ पे किया, right? So there is 1000 plus 100. Then plus there is 110 more of sales tax here. यहाँ पे 110 sales tax की value थी. So say 110. Then there is value added of rupees 90. So this is 10% of all of this. If this figure comes out to 130, you are paying 130 in tax. अगर ये 130 ही निकलता है तो हमारी कैलकुलेशन ठीक है. देखते हैं. 10% of 1000, so 100. 10% of 100 मतलब 10. 10% of 110, which is 11. 10% of 90, which is 9. This is 100 plus 10, 110 plus 11, 121 plus 9, 130. So you have paid 10% tax on what things? आपने किन चीजों पे पे किया है? आपने किन चीजों पे पे किया है? you have paid on this, you have paid on this, you have paid on this, and you have paid on this. These four things you have paid 10% tax on, है ना, जहां से फाइनली ये 1300 की वैल्यू आई है, राइट। नाउ दिस वाज वैल्यू एडेड बाय एप्पल, ये वैल्यू एप्पल ने ऐड की, 1000 रुपए का प्रोडक्ट एप्पल ने बनाया है। ऑन दिस इफ यू आर पेइंग 10%, इट इज फेयर, इट इज फेयर, राइट, राइट। नाउ बट ऑन दिस 10% had already been paid. Apple had already paid, Apple had already paid to government some money here. Apple had already paid 100 rupees, and from this sales tax Apple has already paid 110 rupees. So Apple has already paid, Apple has already paid to government, क्योंकि ये रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी तो एप्पल की है। Apple has already paid to government in this case a value of 110 plus 100. So Apple has already paid 100 plus 110 to the government. 100 Apple has paid as excise, and 110 Apple has paid as sales tax. Excise duty and sales tax Apple has already paid. Distributor is going to collect from you 130 rupees. Distributor is also going to pay this 130 rupees. This 130 rupees is taxed firstly on this 1000 rupees. This is 10% of 1000 plus 100 plus 110 plus 90, right? This is what 130 is. This 130 is tax on this. But on this value, on this 1000, already Apple has deposited this money. ये already deposit हो चुका है. This is double taxation. On the same value, now another tax will be deposited. इस वैल्यू एडिशन पे ऑलरेडी टैक्स डिपॉजिट हो चुका है. This 130 also comes from this 100. This is tax on tax. This 130 also comes from this 110. This is also tax on tax. The last comes from this 90. This is okay because this was new value added. New value added by distributor. So ideally, distributor should be asked only to deposit 9 rupees now. Distributor should be asked to deposit to the government only 9 rupees. Because that is the fresh value added. On this value, some tax has been deposited. ये value added थी, ये value added थी. इस value added पे, इस चीज पे already tax deposit हो चुका है by Apple. Distributor has paid it. Right? Distributor should only be asked to deposit rupees 9 now. Should not be asked to deposit tax on this or tax on. ये tax on tax तो गलत है ही. दोबारा से 1000 रुपीस पर टैक्स लेना भी गलत है, क्योंकि आप एक बार ले चुके हो. Is this clear? This is the case. This is the case of double taxation. This is the case of tax on tax. अगर ये क्लियर है तो जीएसटी खत्म हो गया हमारा टॉपिक. समझ आया क्या हो रहा है यहां पे? Did you understand what was happening here? कमल ना कई बार ऐसे कमेंट्स करता है 90% क्लियर, 70. हाउ डज इट बिकम 90% क्लियर? अरे एवरीथिंग इज रिटन ऑन द बोर्ड, यू राइट इट योरसेल्फ, यू विल गेट क्लियर. अगर आप खुद लिखोगे तो क्लियर हो जाएगा. सब कुछ लिखा है बोर्ड पे, सब कुछ लिखा है. देखते हैं, चलो लेट्स सी व्हाट इज द मनी गवर्नमेंट रिसीव्स इन दिस केस. एप्पल, एप्पल से गवर्नमेंट कितना पैसा रिसीव करती है? What Apple pays to the government is how much? Let's see. Apple pays to the government. Apple pays to the government. Firstly, 100 rupees in excise duty and 110 rupees in sales tax. Excise duty, sales tax. What does distributor pay to the government? Distributor also pays 130 rupees in sales tax. This is the tax that government receives. This is the tax that government receives. गवर्नमेंट ने बोला क्या था? 10% ऑन प्रोडक्शन. 10% ऑन प्रोडक्शन मींस दैट जब भी कोई चीज 1000 रुपीस की प्रोड्यूस हुई है, 1000 रुपीज की प्रोड्यूस हुई है तो उस पर 100 रुपीज टैक्स कलेक्ट होना चाहिए, 10% ऑन प्रोडक्शन। 1000 रुपीज की चीज प्रोड्यूस हुई, उस पर 100 रुपीज कलेक्ट होना चाहिए, यही गवर्नमेंट ने बोला था। हो कितना रहा है? दिस 130 is equal to 10% of 1000 plus 100 plus 110 plus 90। यहां पर 1000 रुपीज की चीज प्रोड्यूस हुई, प्रोडक्शन ऑफ 1000 रुपीज। यहां पर एक्चुअल प्रोडक्शन कितनी है? वट एवर वैल्यू एडेड ही हैज डन, वट एवर वैल्यू ही डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर हैज एडेड, दैट इज द प्रोडक्शन। वॉट इज द प्रोडक्शन हियर? 90 रुपीज। एक्चुअल प्रोडक्शन कितनी हुई इकोनॉमी में? एक्चुअल प्रोडक्शन हुई है इकोनॉमी में 1090 रुपीज। गवर्नमेंट क्या कह रही है? प्रोडक्शन पे मुझे 10% टैक्स दे दो। तो व्हाट इज द प्रोडक्शन टैक्स दैट शुड बी गिवन? व्हाट इज द एक्साइज ड्यूटी दैट शुड बी गिवन? 109 रुपीज। लॉ तो ये है। हो कितना रहा है टैक्स कलेक्ट? पहले यहां पर 100 रुपीज टैक्स कलेक्ट हुआ ऑन दिस 1000, फिर यहां पर 10% ऑफ 1000, दोबारा से 100 रुपीज टैक्स कलेक्ट हुआ ऑन दिस 1000, और फिर 10% टैक्स कलेक्ट हुआ इन ऑन दिस 90। तो हो कितना रहा है ऑन प्रोडक्शन? 100 प्लस 100 प्लस 9। तो एक्चुअली वी आर कलेक्टिंग 100 प्लस 100 प्लस 9। वी हैव टैक्स दैट 1000 रुपीज की प्रोडक्शन ट्वाइस। वी हैव टैक्स दैट 1000 रुपीज प्रोडक्शन ट्वाइस। सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट इज गेटिंग हाउ मच टैक्स हियर? यहां पर 100 हो गया प्रोडक्शन पे। नाउ सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट शुड गेट सम मनी ऑन दिस प्रोडक्शन, दैट्स इट। बट सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट विल गेट 100 प्लस 100 प्लस 9। ये जो एक्स्ट्रा 100 है, दिस इज डबल टैक्सेशन। आई हैव टैक्स दिस 1000 ट्वाइस। अब समझ आया? डबल टैक्सेशन, टैक्स ऑन वैल्यू दैट हैज ऑलरेडी बीन टैक्स्ड। नाउ इज इट क्लियर? अब तो क्लियर होगा यार। ठीक है। नाउ government, this system creates certain problems. What are the two problems of the system? One problem is double taxation. Second problem is tax on tax, because we are also collecting tax here. When we are collecting 1300, we are also charging this 10% of 100. We are also charging this 10% of this. हम इसका भी 10% चार्ज कर रहे हैं, इसका भी 10% चार्ज कर रहे हैं। तो वी आर लेविंग टैक्स ऑन टैक्स एंड वी आर लेविंग समथिंग कॉल्ड डबल टैक्सेशन। These were the two problems of India's taxation system before 2005. In 2005, a new system of taxation was brought called VAT system. VAT is not a tax. VAT is a system of taxation. VAT is a system of taxation. VAT system में क्या बोला गया? Let's now see from the same example. Apple produced a laptop of 1000 rupees. Apple produced a laptop of 1000 rupees. On this, it paid an excise duty of 100 rupees. Then Apple sold this laptop for 1100 rupees. On this, it charged sale tax of 110 rupees. Distributor paid this sales tax of 110 rupees. So Apple also deposited to the state government sales tax of 110 rupees. Right? Now, distributor pays 1100 plus 110 equal to 1210. Distributor pays this much. Distributor adds value of 90 rupees. So distributor now gets 1300 rupees. 1300 rupees is his value. Now, distributor now sells to consumer for 1300 rupees. and he charges, let's say, 130 rupees. This was what was happening and this was the problem. हमने कहा कि डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर जो टैक्स देगा, distributor, the tax that distributor has to give, the tax that distributor has to give is only the tax on his value added tax. Only the tax on his value added, whatever value he adds, only on that he will pay tax. What is the value added that he has done here? What is the value added that he has done here? He has added rupees 9 in value or rupees 90 in value, so he only has to pay rupees 9. He only has to pay rupees 9. So from the consumer, what should he ideally charge? From the consumer, what should he ideally charge? He should say that I paid for this good 1210 rupees. मैंने इस गुड के लिए 1210 रुपीज पे किए, मैंने इसमें वैल्यू ऐड करी 90 रुपीज की. इस 90 रुपीज जो मैंने एक्स्ट्रा, बाकी सब पे तो टैक्स लग ही चुका ना. अभी यहां पर एक्स्ट्रा क्या हुआ है? 1210 से एक्स्ट्रा क्या हुआ है? 90 रुपीज हुआ है. इस 90 रुपीज पे आप 10% टैक्स दे दो, which is 9 rupees. So I will sell you this product for 1219. Ideally this should be the case. ये बात समझ आ रही है? Only on value addition there should be tax. Only on value addition there should be tax. Only on value addition there should be tax. ये बात बोली गई कि वैल्यू एडिशन पे ही टैक्स होना चाहिए, ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए कि पूरे पे टैक्स हो. Yeah, it should be 1309. Sorry about that calculation. It should be 1309. 1210 plus 1309. You pay me this much. You pay me this much. This is what you should be paying me ideally. This is what you should be paying me ideally. What were you originally paying? What were you originally paying? You were paying 1430. You should not pay 1430. You should actually be paying 1309 because this is the value that I have added. Now, इसको अब कैलकुलेट कैसे किया जाए? इसको हमने कंसेप्चुअली तो ये बात मान ली, बट अब करें कैसे कैलकुलेट? बिल ऐसे तो नहीं होता. दिस इज नॉट हाउ बिल्स आर क्रिएटेड. जब भी आप कोई चीज खरीदते हो, द बिल डज नॉट से दैट ओके कॉस्ट ऑफ इनपुट वाज दिस मच, value added was this much, therefore tax is only on value added which is 10%. ऐसा तो बिल नहीं बनता लाइफ में, राइट? बिल पे क्या होता है, और ऐसा बिल बन भी नहीं सकता. आई एम श्योर यू विल ऑल्सो अंडरस्टैंड दैट सच बिल्स कैन नॉट बी मेड, राइट? एक तो इससे डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर को हमेशा पहले अपनी खुद की वैल्यू एडेड कैलकुलेट करनी पड़ेगी, विच इज वेरी डिफिकल्ट टू डू. कैसे करो आप वैल्यू एडेड कैलकुलेट? एंड देन यू कांट मेक अ बिल लाइक दिस. आपने लाइफ में ऐसा कोई बिल नहीं देखा होगा, cost of input, value added, then this much. This is not possible. और इस केस में अगर ये होगा, right, distributor itself has to calculate value added, which is not possible. तो अब क्या करें? बिल तो 1300 का ही बनेगा. बिल तो 1300 का ही बनेगा, right? In this case also, bill will be made of 1300. 1210 का डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर ने खरीदा and 90 रुपीज इज हिज प्रॉफिट. बिल तो ये 1300 का ही बनाएगा. बिल अगर 1300 का है, बिल अगर 1300 का है तो सेल वैल्यू इज 1300. सेल वैल्यू अगर 1300 है तो 10% ऑफ सेल्स वैल्यू विच इज 130 रुपीज ही टैक्स कलेक्ट होगा. ऐसे ही टैक्स कलेक्ट होगा, आप तो कुछ नहीं कर सकते. तो अब इस प्रॉब्लम को सॉल्व करने के लिए किया क्या? प्रॉब्लम समझ आ रही है कि वैल्यू एडेड डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर खुद कैसे बताए कि मेरी वैल्यू एडेड इतनी है. एंड दिस इज नॉट हाउ बिल्स आर प्रिपेयर्ड एनीवे, राइट? आपने जितने बिल्स देखे होंगे ऐसे नहीं होते. नाउ अंडरस्टैंड हाउ टू सॉल्व दिस प्रॉब्लम. अब इस प्रॉब्लम को सॉल्व कैसे करना है ये समझते हैं. टू सॉल्व दिस प्रॉब्लम व्हाट वी विल से इज दैट एवरीवन विल हैव एन अकाउंट विद द गवर्नमेंट एक्सेप्ट द कंज्यूमर. कंज्यूमर को हटा दो, एप्पल का भी और डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर का भी एक अकाउंट होगा विद द गवर्नमेंट. Apple has an account with the government. distributor has account with the government. Apple has the account with the government, distributor has account with the government. डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर का जो अकाउंट होगा गवर्नमेंट में, उसमें क्या लिखा होगा? उसमें दो चीजें लिखी होंगी, टैक्स ऑलरेडी पेड एंड टैक्स ड्यू. टैक्स ऑलरेडी पेड एंड टैक्स ड्यू. ठीक है, टैक्स ऑलरेडी पेड एंड टैक्स ड्यू. अब इस केस में देखते हैं, अब इस केस में प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व करने की कोशिश करते हैं. What is the tax distributor has already paid? What is the tax he has already paid? When he first gets a bill from Apple, इनको एक Apple से बिल मिलता है, Apple से एक बिल मिलता है. इस बिल पे क्या लिखा है? What is written on this first bill? Apple gives distributor a bill. On this bill, what is written? 1100 rupees. Because वो एक्साइज ड्यूटी को सेपरेट तो नहीं करेंगे. They will write 1100 rupees plus value of sale plus 10% sales tax. 1100 rupees plus 10% sales tax, which is 110. इस बिल पे लिखा होगा. ये बिल बना है तो this information has gone to central government, it has gone to state government. State government now knows that distributor has already paid a tax of 110 to us. Distributor has already paid 110 to state government. ये चीज इस बिल पे लिखी है. Now distributor will give this bill to consumer. Distributor will give a bill to consumer. What will distributor write? Distributor will write 1300 plus 10%. 1300 plus 10%. Now, from here he will collect certain tax. Whatever he writes on the bill. Bill making भी अभी हम देखेंगे. He will collect certain money from consumer. He will collect this money in the form of, let's say, tax and whatever is his value added. So he had paid 1210 rupees. He has value added 90 rupees. So he will say 1300. And now whatever bill he makes, जैसे भी वो बिल बनाएंगे वो लिखेंगे 1300 plus tax. ऐसा कुछ लिखेंगे, right? Now on this bill, on this 1300, state government will say that distributor has taken a bill of 1300. बिल निकाला है 1300 का. Our sales tax is 10%. Therefore, he has to deposit 130 rupees of more tax. This is now tax due. But already this distributor has paid 110 rupees. 110 rupees already आ चुका है. So state government will not ask him to deposit 130. State government will ask him to deposit only what is the difference here. State government will say, यहाँ आप already दे चुके हो. You have already given 110 rupees to us. Now after your value addition, you are charging this much tax. Right? इसमें से आप already pay कर चुके हो हमें 110 rupees. You have already paid to us 110 rupees. We are writing this in your account that you have already paid 110 rupees. You now whatever extra bill you create, अब जो आप bill बनाओगे, now whatever bill you create, from that bill what tax you collect, we will check against what you have already paid. If you have already paid that amount, we will not ask you to again deposit the entire amount. हम आपको पूरा amount दोबारा deposit करने को नहीं बोलेंगे. We will just ask you to deposit what is due, whatever is the difference here. मैं figure यहाँ पर भूल जाओ, forget the figure. Is the concept clear? दोनों के बीच में is the concept clear to you? This concept of having this account that you have already paid certain tax on your inputs, आपने अपने इनपुट्स पे ऑलरेडी सर्टेन टैक्स दे दिया है, यू हैव पेड सर्टेन टैक्स ऑन योर इनपुट्स, वी विल ओनली चार्ज नाउ रिमेनिंग अमाउंट ऑफ टैक्स, जो भी रिमेनिंग है हम वही चार्ज करेंगे, वी विल ओनली चार्ज वट एवर इज रिमेनिंग. This is called a system of very, very important. This is the whole basis of VAT system called input tax credit. Value of input tax credit. तो अब डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर अपना बिल में क्या लिखेगा? What will distributor now write in his bill? हम बिल में कैसे कैलकुलेट हो रहा है बिल, कैसे बन रहा है बिल, वो देखते हैं. लेट्स अंडरस्टैंड हाउ द बिल इज मेड. वैल्यू ऑफ इनपुट, वैल्यू ऑफ इनपुट वाज 1100. दिस इज वैल्यू ऑफ इनपुट. जिस वैल्यू पे उसने इनपुट खरीदा 1100. टैक्स ऑलरेडी पेड इज 110. इसको अलग से लिखते हैं. डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर की बात देख रहे हैं. टैक्स ऑलरेडी पेड, ही हैज ऑलरेडी पेड 110 रुपीज ऑफ सेल्स टैक्स. टैक्स ऑलरेडी पेड 110. वैल्यू एडेड 90 रुपीज इज हिज वैल्यू एडेड. 90 rupees is his value added. What is the value of sale now? He will now prepare a different bill. He will now prepare a different bill. He will say that I am preparing a bill of 1190 rupees. I am now preparing a bill of, I will not write this. जो taxes I have already paid, this I will not write in the bill. I will not write this in the bill. I will just write in the bill now 1190. I will write this in the bill and ask the customer to pay 10%. You will pay 119 rupees. Distributor now has to deposit 119 rupees to the government. He will not write the taxes he paid in the last stage. Last stage mein, when he was buying his input, he bought the input for 1100. He paid 10% sales tax. Distributor here bought input for 1100, paid 10% sales tax. In the original billing formula, he was writing this entire amount because उसको दोबारा deposit करना था ये. There was double taxation. Tax on tax was happening. He had to deposit it again. So he was writing this entire amount. Now he will not write this entire amount. What will he write? He will write, okay, value of input was 1100. I purchased the input for 1100. I paid already. Tax already paid was 110. Value added is 90. Now when he writes his bill, from his bill he will subtract the taxes paid in the last stage. So he will directly write 1190. On this he will ask you to pay 10% sales tax. 10% sales tax. Now let's see what is the tax that you are paying. 10% sales tax is what you pay now. So you now pay 1190 plus 119. You pay 119 in tax. Now let's see where this 119 is coming from. अब आप इतना टैक्स दे रहे हो. अब आप इतना टैक्स दे रहे हो. Distributor collects 119 from you. Distributor collects 119 from you. Distributor के गवर्नमेंट के अकाउंट में क्या लिखा है? गवर्नमेंट के डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर के अकाउंट में लिखा है, डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर अकाउंट सेज टैक्स already paid is rupees 110. He has already paid this in the previous stage. He collects 119. Tax due 119. 110 already paid. What you have to deposit now? Only 9. Deposit only 9. 9 कहां से आया? 9 is 10% of 90. 10% ऑफ 90. तो अब वही टैक्स डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर डिपॉजिट कर रहा है ज्यादा जो उसकी वैल्यू एडेड है. ही इज ओनली डिपॉजिटिंग हिज वैल्यू एडेड. ही इज नॉट डिपॉजिटिंग द प्रीवियस टैक्सेस पेड. दोबारा टैक्स नहीं डिपॉजिट कर रहा, उसने ये चीज बिल से हटा दी. एंड दिस इज नोन. बिल ऐसे ही बनता है, बिल में टैक्स अलग से लिखा होता है. तो उसको एप्पल्स ने बिल दिया 1100 प्लस 10%। उसने इस 10% को आपके बिल में इंक्लूड नहीं किया। उसने आपके लिए जो बिल बनाया, उसने आपके लिए बिल बनाया यहां से, डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर मेक दिस बिल फॉर यू 1100, उसने खुद का प्रॉफिट जोड़ा 90 रुपीज का, तो उसने सीधा बिल बनाया 1190 प्लस 10%, 1190 प्लस 10%। तो अब आपने दिया 1190 और आपने टैक्स दिया 119। अब डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर गवर्नमेंट को डिपॉजिट करना चाहता है, ऑलरेडी ही हैज पेड, ऑलरेडी ही हैज पेड दिस मच टैक्स, वो दे चुका है इतना टैक्स एप्पल को, ऑलरेडी इट हैज पेड दिस मच टैक्स, he only has to deposit 9 rupees more and this is exactly his value added of rupees 90। मैथमेटिक्स अगर क्लियर नहीं भी हुई है तो कॉन्सेप्ट क्लियर हो गया है वैल्यू एडेड टैक्स का। इज कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ वैल्यू एडेड टैक्स क्लियर? इवन इफ द मैथ्स, वैसे तो मैथ्स बहुत आसान है ये, ओके ग्रेट। अब इसी ट्रांजैक्शन को दोबारा देखते हैं। अब समझ, ये तो वैट सिस्टम है, दिस इज द वैट सिस्टम, ठीक है। अब पहले इस ट्रांजैक्शन को दोबारा देखते हैं। एप्पल प्रोड्यूसेस अ लैपटॉप ऑफ 1000 रुपीज, pays to central government excise duty of 100 rupees. To distributor, he sells this laptop for rupees 1100, takes tax of 110 rupees. Distributor does value addition of 90 rupees. Distributor then sells this to consumer at 1190, value of input plus value added 1190 plus 10%. So tax here is 119. Consumer pays in this case 1190, which is value plus 119 tax. अब सारे टैक्स रेट्स 10% हैं, इस 119 को ब्रेक करते हैं। वेयर हैज दिस कम फ्रॉम? 119 इज इक्वल टू 10% ऑफ व्हाट फिगर्स हेयर? 10% ऑफ व्हाट फिगर्स? कौन कौन सी फिगर्स का 10% है ये? दिस इज 10% ऑफ फर्स्टली 1000, 10% ऑफ 1000 फर्स्ट, प्लस 10% of 90 plus 10% of 100. अभी भी there is a tax on tax. This is 100, this is 9, this is 10. Still this 10 is tax on tax. और ये कौन सा 100 है? ये 100 है। You are still paying 119 rupees in tax. यहां पर ये वाला इफेक्ट हमने एलिमिनेट कर दिया, इसकी डबल टैक्सेशन को भी हमने एलिमिनेट कर दिया, पर ये एलिमिनेट नहीं हुआ। बात समझ आई? इज दिस क्लियर? बहुत सिंपल मैथ्स है यार, मतलब, और इतना सीसैट अगर क्लियर करना है तो दिस वी हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड। इज दिस क्लियर? सारे टैक्स रेट्स 10% हैं। तो अब क्या हुआ है? नाउ देयर इज स्टिल वन प्रॉब्लम। सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट की जो एक्साइज ड्यूटी थी, सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट की जो एक्साइज ड्यूटी थी, उस पे अभी भी टैक्स ऑन टैक्स लग रहा है। स्टिल टैक्स ऑन टैक्स इज देयर, बाकी सारा सिस्टम ठीक है। क्योंकि अगर मैं वैसे देखूं तो इस पूरी ट्रांजैक्शन में हुआ क्या है, व्हाट हैज हैपेंड इन दिस एंटायर ट्रांजैक्शन, मैं वर्ड्स में लिखता हूं। एंड अ कंपनी कॉल्ड एप्पल प्रोड्यूस समथिंग फॉर 1000 रुपीज, a distributor produced something for 90 rupees, total was 1090, This was sold for 1090. This was sold for 1090. There is a tax of production. There is a tax of production. There is a tax of sale. Both taxes are 10%. Right? There is a tax of production. There is a tax of sale. Tax of production and tax of sale are both at 10%. But the tax that is actually getting collected, that is at this value. There is also a tax on tax. There is also a tax on tax that is getting collected here, which is unfair. Right? अब ये क्यों हो रहा है? Why is this happening? क्यों हो रहा है ये? This is happening because यहां जो टैक्स कलेक्टिंग एंटिटी है और यहां जो टैक्स कलेक्टिंग एंटिटी है वो अलग है. Who is collecting this tax? State government. Who is collecting this tax? State government. Who is collecting this tax? Who is collecting this tax? State government. तो यहां पर जो स्टेट गवर्नमेंट का पुराना टैक्स था, स्टेट गवर्नमेंट का जो पुराना टैक्स था, उससे तो एक इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट मिल गया और उससे वो प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व हो गई. बट दिस टैक्स इज बीइंग कलेक्टेड बाय सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट. ये जो स्टेट गवर्नमेंट के, फाइनली हम स्टेट गवर्नमेंट का टैक्स दे रहे हैं. यहां पर टैक्स ऑन टैक्स वाली प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व नहीं हुई. यहां पर प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व नहीं हुई. यहां पर अभी भी कैस्केडिंग इफेक्ट है. राइट? इज दिस क्लियर? Is this clear? So this was the problem. VAT system में क्या हिसाब किताब था? Now I'll tell you about the VAT system. What was the problem in the VAT system? In the VAT system, अगर मैं VAT की बात करूं, तो पहले तो जो इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट का सिस्टम था, that was only against the particular tax. आपको सेल्स टैक्स का इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट मिला, आपको सेल्स टैक्स का इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट मिला, स्टेट गवर्नमेंट का है, तो आप पुराने सेल्स टैक्स से ही ऑफसेट कर सकते हो उसको. यहां पर क्या हो रहा है? आपको इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट मिला था, दैट्स व्हाई यू आर एबल टू ऑफसेट दिस. अगर आपको सेल्स टैक्स का इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट मिला है, यू विल ओनली बी यूजिंग दिस टू ऑफसेट दिस टैक्स, नॉट दिस. अगर सेंट्रल सेल्स टैक्स का मिला है, तो यू विल ओनली बी यूजिंग इट टू ऑफसेट सेंट्रल सेल्स टैक्स. राइट? दिस वाज द प्रॉब्लम. Central government charges excise duty. Central government was also using the VATing system in excise duty. अब सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट का वैटिंग सिस्टम ऑफ एक्साइज ड्यूटी समझने के लिए हमें यहां एप्पल के पीछे जाना पड़ेगा. एप्पल डिड नॉट प्रोड्यूस द लैपटॉप आउट ऑफ थिन एयर. एप्पल डिड नॉट प्रोड्यूस द लैपटॉप आउट ऑफ थिन एयर. लेट्स से इट बॉट स्क्रीन फ्रॉम समवेयर, इट बॉट कीबोर्ड फ्रॉम समवेयर. स्क्रीन कहीं से खरीदा, कीबोर्ड कहीं से खरीदा. स्क्रीन और कीबोर्ड कहीं से खरीदा, तो यहां पर ऑलरेडी लेट्स से स्क्रीन वर्थ वाज 200 रुपीज, कीबोर्ड वर्थ वाज 500 रुपीज. सो एप्पल ऑल्सो बॉट द स्क्रीन एंड कीबोर्ड. एट दिस 200 रुपीज एप्पल मस्ट हैव पेड 20 रुपीज एक्साइज ड्यूटी, और मस्ट हैव पेड हियर सम मनी. हियर एप्पल मस्ट हैव पेड सम मनी. छोड़ दो एक्साइज ड्यूटी थी या क्या था, लेट्स लीव दैट असाइड. Screen, let's say Apple has bought for 200 rupees. Keyboard, Apple has bought for 500 rupees. Then Apple has created laptop for 1000 rupees. अब यहां भी कोई सेल हुई होगी और इन लोगों ने स्क्रीन प्रोड्यूस किया था, तो इन्होंने भी कुछ एक्साइज ड्यूटी दी होगी, इन्होंने भी कुछ एक्साइज ड्यूटी दी होगी. जैसे यहां पर हमने सेल्स टैक्स को ऑफसेट किया, पुराने सेल्स टैक्स को हमने ऑफसेट किया, सिमिलरली ऐसा एक्साइज ड्यूटी में भी ऑफसेट करने का सिस्टम था. Similar system was there to offset this value of excise duty. It was there. So Apple was offsetting this, and Apple was offsetting this using its input tax credit on this. ठीक है, जैसे यहां पर हमने distributor was offsetting the sales tax, Apple could also Apple could also offset the excise duty value. Apple could also offset the excise duty value using something called mod VAT, modified VAT, or sen VAT, central VAT. This was simply the VATing system applied to excise duty. जैसे ये वैटिंग सिस्टम है, this is VATing system applied to sales tax. What we have read so far is VATing system applied to sales tax, that only on value addition new tax is given. VATing system applied to sales tax, ऐसा ही एक सिस्टम यहां पर एक्साइज ड्यूटी के लिए भी एग्जिस्ट करता था. तो सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट was collecting excise duty, so central government was also making the system called mod VAT or sen VAT. This VATing system applied to excise duty. Excise duty is also indirect tax. Indirect tax पे आप ये input tax rate का system लगा सकते हो. So VATing system was also applied to excise duty using mod VAT and sen VAT system. VATing system was also applied to state sales tax, जो हम अभी देख रहे थे. सेल्स टैक्स ऑफ स्टेट, सेल्स टैक्स ऑफ स्टेट, इस पे भी वैटिंग सिस्टम अप्लाइड था, इस पे भी वैटिंग सिस्टम अप्लाइड था. इट वाज सिंपली कॉल्ड वैट, वैल्यू एडेड टैक्स. समझ आई ये बात? इज दिस थिंग क्लियर? दैट एक्साइज ड्यूटी का अपना अलग वैटिंग सिस्टम चल रहा है, सेल्स टैक्स का अपना अलग वैटिंग सिस्टम चल रहा है. आई एम नॉट एक्सप्लेनिंग दैट, फिर वो मैथ्स और कॉम्प्लिकेटेड हो जाएगी. बट आर यू गेटिंग द आइडिया? जैसे हमने सेल्स टैक्स पे किया वैसे ही हमने एक्साइज ड्यूटी पे किया, क्योंकि एप्पल ने भी तो कहीं से खरीदा होगा कीबोर्ड वगैरह. ठीक है. अब प्रॉब्लम यहां क्या थी? इस सिस्टम में एक ही प्रॉब्लम है. इस सिस्टम में प्रॉब्लम यह है कि यहां का जो इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट मिलता है, एप्पल को कुछ इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट तो सेल टैक्स का मिल रहा है. देखो एप्पल किस टाइप के टैक्सेस भर रहा है. Apple has to deposit certain sales tax to state government. Apple has to deposit excise duty to central government. This is also under the VAT system, so there must be some input tax credit. This is also under mod VAT or sen VAT system, so there must be some input tax credit. यहां पर भी इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट होगा, यहां पर भी इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट होगा. तो इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट की प्रॉब्लम नहीं है. प्रॉब्लम क्या है कि जो ये इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट मिलता था, ये इससे वो ये नहीं पे कर सकता. यू कैन नॉट यूज दिस इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट टू ऑफसेट दिस. आप ये इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट यूज करके सेल्स टैक्स को ऑफसेट नहीं कर सकते. यू अंडरस्टैंडिंग? यू कैन नॉट यूज दिस इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट टू ऑफसेट सेल्स टैक्स. यू कैन नॉट use this input tax credit to offset excise duty. आप इस input tax credit से excise duty offset करोगे, आप इससे sales tax को आप offset करोगे. क्यों? क्योंकि दोनों की authorities अलग हैं. ये सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट के अकाउंट में है, ये स्टेट गवर्नमेंट के अकाउंट में है. This is in the state government account. Apple has account with state government. This is in state government account. This is in central government account. You can't use this to offset this. You can't use this to offset this. ऐसे ही एप्पल एक सेंट्रल सेल्स टैक्स भी कलेक्ट करेगा. एप्पल विल ऑल्सो कलेक्ट सेंट्रल सेल्स टैक्स. देगा अगर इंटरस्टेट सेल करता है तो. दिस अकाउंट विल बी विद सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट. दिस इज ऑल्सो अंडर वैटिंग सिस्टम. यहां पर भी इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट मिलेगा, बट अगेन यू कैन नॉट यूज दिस टू ऑफसेट दिस और ऑफसेट दिस. नाउ दिस वाज क्रिएटिंग अ प्रॉब्लम. दिस वाज क्रिएटिंग अ प्रॉब्लम. आपके पास एक्साइज ड्यूटी का इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट इकट्ठा हुआ है, बट आप उसको यूज नहीं कर सकते ऑफसेट करने के लिए सेल्स टैक्स को. ये बात समझ आई कि आप अपने उसी इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट से ऑफसेट कर सकते हो. यू कैन ओनली ऑफसेट यूजिंग द इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट ऑफ दैट पर्टिकुलर टैक्स. सेल्स टैक्स का आईटीसी अलग, एक्साइज ड्यूटी का आईटीसी अलग. अब इस वजह से थोड़ी बहुत टैक्सेशन ऑन टैक्सेशन हो रही है. अभी भी कैस्केडिंग इफेक्ट पूरी तरह गया नहीं है. एंड प्रोड्यूसर्स के लिए एक प्रॉब्लम है. ये वाला इससे ये वाला, इससे कंप्लायंस की प्रॉब्लम अलग है। दिस प्रॉब्लम वाज सॉल्व्ड बाय जीएसटी। ये क्यों हो रहा है, इसके रीजन समझो। यहां पर क्या हो रहा है, देयर आर टू थिंग्स हैपनिंग हियर। वन, देयर आर डिफरेंट इवेंट्स ऑफ टैक्सेशन। Different events of taxation are there. One is this event of production, one is this event of sales. Different events, and there are different authorities. One event, one authority is center, one authority is state. Because of different authorities and because of different events, you could not use income tax, input tax credit to offset other taxes. Different events and different authorities. GST solved this problem. GST said that now the only event of taxation is sale. There is only one event of taxation, which is sale. अब सिर्फ एक ही event of taxation है called sale. Apple will sell to distributor whatever this sale value is. इस पे एक कुछ परसेंटेज जीएसटी लगेगा. डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर विल सेल टू कंज्यूमर, इस पे एक सेल वैल्यू है, इस पे कुछ परसेंटेज जीएसटी लगेगा. पहले तो देयर इज ओनली वन इवेंट ऑफ टैक्सेशन, ओनली वन, विच इज सेल. नो टैक्स ऑन प्रोडक्शन, ओनली टैक्स ऑन सेल. ये जो जीएसटी अब कलेक्ट होगा, यहां से जो जीएसटी जो निकलेगा, you will get a GST here. This will be distributed between central government and state government. जो जीएसटी कलेक्ट होगा उसी को हम सेंटर और स्टेट में डिवाइड कर देंगे. यहां पर जो जीएसटी कलेक्ट होगा उसी को हम सेंटर और स्टेट में डिवाइड कर देंगे. सो इवन द लास्ट प्रॉब्लम ऑफ मल्टीपल इवेंट्स बीइंग देयर वाज सॉल्व्ड. तो अब देखते हैं कि जीएसटी सिस्टम में ये कैसे अप्लाई होगा. व्हाट हैपेंस इन द जीएसटी सिस्टम. Same transaction in GST system. Apple creates a laptop of 1000 rupees. Any event of taxation? No. No event of taxation. Apple sells this to distributor. Apple sells for 1000 rupees, takes tax let's say at 20%. तो कितना टैक्स कलेक्ट किया एप्पल ने? 200. Apple has paid 200 to government. Distributor adds value. Distributor adds value of 90 rupees. What will distributor write on bill now? Value of input. Distributor will write value of input. He will write value added, but he will not write previous taxes. पुराने टैक्स को नहीं लिखेगा. So he will now write on this bill value of 1090. At 1090, you will now let's say pay 20% tax. मान लो आपने यहाँ पे 20% टैक्स दिया. 20% is just for illustration. You gave 20% tax here. This is 218 rupees. So you will now pay. You pay 1090 plus 218 rupees. You will now pay 218 rupees. 20% is just for example. You pay 218 rupees now. Okay. Now when you pay 218 rupees, what will distributor's account look like? What will distributor's account look like? Distributor's account will look like that you have already paid tax, already paid in distributor's account will say tax already paid is rupees 200. Tax collected or tax due, collected भी नहीं, tax due was 218 rupees because you made a sale of 1090. इसका 20% is your tax due. You have already paid 200. So what distributor now has to pay? 18 rupees. 18 rupees is 20% of 9. 18 rupees is 20% of 9. This is fine. तो डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर के साइड से तो अभी कैलकुलेशन ठीक है. अब हम आपकी टैक्स की कैलकुलेशन देख लेते हैं. You are now paying tax of 218. Tax rate is 20%. 218 is 20% of 1000 plus 90. ये चीज भी प्रोड्यूस हुई थी, ये चीज भी प्रोड्यूस हुई थी. टैक्स उन्हीं चीजों पे लग रहा है जो प्रोड्यूस हुई थी. 20% ऑफ 1000 is 200. 20% ऑफ 90 is 18. So you are paying only 218. तो आप उन्हीं चीजों पर टैक्स दे रहे हो जो प्रोड्यूस हुआ है. यू आर नॉट पेइंग टैक्स ऑन थिंग्स विच आर टैक्स ऑन टैक्स. यू आर नॉट पेइंग टैक्स ऑन थिंग्स ट्वाइस. यू आर ओनली पेइंग टैक्स ऑन थिंग्स दैट हैज बीन value added. Apple added value of 1000, distributor added value of 90. You are only paying tax now on value added, actually paying value added tax now. ठीक है, there is one event, तो distributor is also paying on same, और अब 20% पे यूनिफॉर्म टैक्सेशन है. इसी को सेंट्रल स्टेट गवर्नमेंट में डिस्ट्रीब्यूट कर दिया जाएगा. इस सिस्टम ऑफ जीएसटी क्लियर? जीएसटी क्या आया, क्या था और क्या करा उसने फाइनली? इज दिस क्लियर? बहुत ज्यादा टाइम लग गया हमें ये समझने में, बट आई होप नाउ यू विल नॉट फॉरगेट. नाउ दिस इज द जीएसटी सिस्टम. तो मैंने यहां पर ये सारी चीज लिखी भी हुई है, व्हाट हैपेंड एक्सेट्रा एक्सेट्रा, मॉड वैट सेन वैट आया वगैरह वगैरह. बट दिस इज द एंटायर आइडिया ऑफ जीएसटी. जीएसटी की टैगलाइन क्या है? वन नेशन वन टैक्स. सो वन इवेंट ऑफ टैक्सेशन. One event of taxation is one event of taxation. One event of taxation, only event is sale. One taxation authority. One taxation authority. There is a system in GST. अगर आपका टोटल कलेक्शन या टोटल स्टेट, लेट्स से टोटल आपकी रजिस्ट्रेशन दोनों जगह होती है, यू रजिस्टर इन बोथ प्लेसेस. दिस इज एन इंटरनल सिस्टम दैट अगर 1 करोड़ से ज्यादा की टैक्स लायबिलिटी है तो सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट के ऑफिस में जाता है. 1 करोड़ से कम की है तो स्टेट के पास जाता है. एक एस्टिमेशन है वगैरह वगैरह. वी डोंट हैव टू गो इनटू दैट. वी हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड वन नेशन वन टैक्स. दैट पूरे नेशन पे अब एक टैक्सेशन लग रही है फ्रॉम वन सिस्टम ऑन वन इवेंट थ्रू वन अथॉरिटी. दैट वन अथॉरिटी माइट कीप चेंजिंग, बट होगी एक ही, होगी एक ही. दिस सिस्टम हैज बीन मेड. दिस इज व्हाई इट इज ट्रूली वन नेशन वन टैक्स. It has eliminated any cascading effect of taxes. It has eliminated all sorts of various other tax on tax, double taxation burden, etc. That is why it is a huge and hugely successful reform. Now, your homework today is to read about GST from Lakshmikant. इसका एक पॉलिटी का भी एंगल है. This is a huge victory for federalism also. देयर इज द जीएसटी काउंसिल. जो लोग हमारे फाउंडेशन कोर्स में हैं और पॉलिटी क्लास पहले देख चुके हैं, उनको वो ऑलरेडी पढ़ चुके होंगे. अगर आप फाउंडेशन कोर्स में हो और आप 2026 के लिए प्रिपेयर कर रहे हो, यू आर गोइंग टू रीड इट एनीवे. आपको ये पढ़ाया जाएगा, राइट? बट दिस इज अ ह्यूज विक्ट्री फॉर फेडरलिज्म बिकॉज सेंटर एंड स्टेट्स हैव कम टुगेदर इन वन प्लेस. देयरफॉर दिस इज अ ह्यूज विक्ट्री फॉर फेडरलिज्म. और फेडरलिज्म के टॉपिक में भी जीएसटी इसलिए बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट रहता है. सो वी विल रीड इट फ्रॉम लक्ष्मीकांत वंस. एक बार उसको रीड करेंगे और समझेंगे what is the GST council. ये चेंजेस करने के लिए कुछ कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल अमेंडमेंट्स की गई. वी विल रीड दोस चेंजेस, देन रीड दिस डॉक्यूमेंट वंस, यू विल अंडरस्टैंड एवरीथिंग. ओके, नाउ there are few more things we have to read about GST and few more things we have to read in terms of how taxation is done to ensure there is no tax evasion. कि आप टैक्स जो आपकी लायबिलिटी है आप उससे बच के ना भागो, उसके लिए भी कुछ प्रोविजंस हैं. we'll read them today only, called anti profiteering. this we will read first, then we will, हमने लैफर कर्व तो पढ़ा ही था. we'll read tax elasticity, then we'll read something called revenue neutral rate, GST compensation cess, GST composition scheme, double taxation avoidance agreement, general anti-avoidance rules, advanced pricing agreement, and place of effective management. These are all terms that are related to avoiding of tax evasion. Now, one more thing we'll read here called tax deducted at source, TDS. TDS. Okay. Now, now, now. Before we start this, I'm going to give you a slightly long break of 5 minutes. जो भी आपने अभी तक लिखा है उसको एक बार रीड कर लो. देखो, द मैथमेटिक्स इज नॉट इंपॉर्टेंट बिकॉज मैथमेटिकल क्वेश्चन हमें नहीं आएंगे, हम सीए का एग्जाम नहीं दे रहे हैं. We simply have to understand that now there is only one event of taxation, one authority of taxation, no cascading effect of taxes, no double taxation. This is what we have to understand. I hope that is clear. वो हो गया होगा amply clear अब. I'm giving you 5 minutes. जो आपने मेरे साथ लिखा था उसको देख लो. Then we will read just these clauses and we'll end today's class. ठीक है, देख लेते हैं एक छोटा सा. Now let us read some of the clauses of GST. One is anti-profiteering clause. Anti-profiteering clause, हमने क्या देखा, that जब a producer has to make a bill, when distributor was making his bill, इसी केस से समझते हैं क्योंकि हम इसी केस से समझ रहे हैं सब कुछ. Distributor is making his bill, his value added is ₹90, his cost of input is ₹1000, right? He has already paid 200 rupees GST here, right? In your bill, what should he write? He should write 1090. So he should write input cost and his profit or value added. इसको मिला के इसको लिखना चाहिए 1090. He should not write simply. He should write this value and then charge you 20%. Now, distributors करते क्या हैं? What do distributors do which is illegal? They will write complete 1200. They will write 1290 and from here charge you 20% tax. This is what they will write on the bill that is given to you. आपको बिल पे ये लिखेंगे. They will give you a fake bill. They will write this on the bill, right? The actual bill that they submit to the government, on that bill they will write this. So this is the bill they are giving to government. This is the bill they are giving to you. इससे हुआ क्या? Ideally ये सारा GST का सिस्टम हो क्यों रहा था? ताकि जो कंज्यूमर है, the person who is the consumer, they should not pay tax on tax. They should not pay double taxation. But they have written this. Now you are paying tax on tax. You will pay 20% on this 200 and you will pay 200 for the second time. So you will pay double taxation also and you will pay tax on tax also. But this is the bill distributor will submit to government. So जो यहाँ पर extra पैसे हैं, now you are paying this money 1290 plus 20%. What does distributor have to deposit to government? Only 218. जो extra उन्होंने आपके fake bill पे लिखा, this is the fake bill given to you. जो extra आपके fake bill पे लिखा गया, that distributor will keep in his pocket. Distributor will keep this in his pocket. तभी आपने देखा होगा, बहुत बार आप मोबाइल फोन खरीदने जाते हो, especially if you are buying it from a local place. If you are buying it from a local place, you will see a lot of times they will be able to offer a lot of discounts to you. They will be able to offer discounts to you only because they are making these fake bills. Of course, they can reduce their own profit also, वो भी हो सकता है, but ये भी कर सकते हैं वो. Now, क्या हुआ? The benefit of GST did not get passed on to you. And the distributor engaged in profiteering. Now, there are two terms. One is profit. One is profit. Profit कमाना is not illegal. Profit कमाना is ethical, legal. Profit कमाना एक producer का right है. Profiteering is collecting unfair amount of profit. Here, through an illegal thing, the distributor is trying to collect unfair amount of profit. He will pocket this 200 rupees and keep it with himself, right? ये profiteering is not allowed in GST, called anti-profiteering clause. Anti-profiteering clause. You are not allowed to do this. आप बिल पे 1290 नहीं लिख सकते हो, आपको 1090 ही लिखना पड़ेगा. अगर आपने ये वैल्यू लिखी, this is illegal. This is anti-profiteering clause. You must pass the benefit on to the consumer. First clause, anti-profiteering. Anti-profiteering clause is there in GST. Anti-profiteering means you cannot not pass on the benefits to the consumer. अगर आप benefits consumer को pass नहीं करते and you take those benefits as your own profit, that is profiteering and that is illegal under GST. Then Then there is something called Laffer curve. Laffer curve हम पहले से पढ़ चुके हैं. We've read this before. This is just an explanation. हम ये last time पढ़ चुके हैं. Now, Laffer curve से एक related concept पढ़ो. GST is a very logical reform. ऐसी चीज है जो definitely which was logical, which should have been done. Right? It is a very logical reform. Now, why did this not happen for the longest time? इतना टाइम क्यों लग गया? 2017 में जीएसटी आया. ऐसा तो नहीं है आइडिया ऑफ जीएसटी वाज नॉट क्लियर. This is something that everyone knew, right? This did not happen because of states' opposition. States did not agree to this. Why did states not agree to GST? States को लगा that their taxation power is being taken away. पहले states अपने हिसाब से वैट ले करते थे, और अभी मैंने आपको सिर्फ वैट का बताया, सेल्स टैक्स का बताया, जीएसटी का नहीं बताया. Right? I'm just telling you about sales tax and VAT. There were actually 23 such indirect taxes that have been subsumed in GST. ऐसे बहुत सारे टैक्सेस हैं जो इसमें सबस्यूम हुए हैं. स्टेट्स को लगा कि अब एक जीएसटी रेट है विच इज कॉमन फॉर द एंटायर कंट्री. वी आर लूजिंग आवर टैक्सेशन पावर. फॉर दिस रीजन फॉर द लॉन्गेस्ट टाइम स्टेट्स डिड नॉट कम ऑन बोर्ड. पहले वैट सिस्टम में लाने के लिए, सेल्स टैक्स से वैट पे लाने के लिए स्टेट्स को कन्विंस करना पड़ा. फिर वैट से जीएसटी में लाने के लिए स्टेट्स को कन्विंस करना पड़ा, बिकॉज स्टेट्स फेल्ट दे वर लूजिंग देयर पावर. राइट? सो फॉर द लॉन्गेस्ट टाइम दे डिड नॉट अग्री टू जीएसटी. But this is a very flawed logic. Saying that states have lost their power is actually very flawed logic. What has happened is that center and state have pooled their power. Nobody has lost their power. इसके लिए एक और concept समझते हैं. This concept called compliance of law. Compliance. Compliance means agreeing to the law. Compliance means agreeing to the law. Every law has a compliance cost. If you agree to the law, you pay certain cost. Compliance cost. Every law also has some non-compliance cost. अगर आपने agree नहीं किया law को follow नहीं किया, तो भी आप पे कोई cost लगेगी. Till we were in this sales tax system, till we were in this original sales tax system, let's consider what was happening. I'll just go back to that. जब तक हम इस सिस्टम में थे तो देखते हैं क्या हो रहा है. याद है, पूरा सेल्स टैक्स लग रहा है, डबल टैक्सेशन हो रही है, टैक्स ऑन टैक्स लग रहा है. व्हाट वाज द प्रूफ ऑफ सेल? इस कंडीशन में व्हाट वाज द प्रूफ ऑफ सेल? प्रूफ ऑफ सेल वाज ओनली वन कॉल्ड बिल. बिल बनेगा तो देयर विल बी प्रूफ ऑफ सेल. सो इन दिस सिस्टम व्हाट पीपल यूज्ड टू डू वाज, पीपल यूज्ड टू से दैट वी विल नॉट गेट द बिल. आपने ये सुना भी होगा पहले कि अगर बिल नहीं लोगे तो सस्ते में दे देंगे, बिल लोगे तो पूरा टैक्स देंगे. राइट? यू मस्ट हैव हर्ड दिस. पहले तो बहुत बात होती थी फोन वोन खरीदने में, दैट इफ यू डोंट टेक द बिल वी विल गिव इट टू यू वेरी चीपली. इफ यू टेक द बिल देन यू पे ऑल द टैक्सेशन. राइट? तो क्या करते थे लोग यहां पर? कॉस्ट ऑफ कंप्लायंस इज वेरी हाई फॉर द कंज्यूमर. कॉस्ट ऑफ कंप्लायंस इज वेरी हाई. Cost of compliance includes double taxation, includes tax on tax. So if you comply with the law, even distributor has a cost, even consumer has a cost. He is also paying tax on tax. You are also paying tax on tax. So cost of compliance is very high. तो लोग कहते थे बिल चाहिए ही नहीं. If no bill, no proof of sale. If no proof of sale, no indirect tax. Cost of compliance is very high. अब बिल नहीं कर रहे हो आप, बिल नहीं बना रहे हो, तो you are not complying. If you are not complying, then there is a cost of non-compliance. ना कंप्लाई करने का एक कॉस्ट था. ना कंप्लाई करने का क्या कॉस्ट था? कि आप पे रेड हो सकती थी. You would be raided. If you would be raided on, right? ये रेड कौन डिसाइड करता था? Who was deciding this raid? This was a discretionary decision. डिस्क्रिशन से जो IRS ऑफिसर्स हैं, they would decide. वो पहले देखेंगे, सर्वे करेंगे, then they would decide यार इसका लग रहा है that he does not pay GST, तो इस पे रेड कर, या he does not pay sales tax, ये बिल्स नहीं बनाता, इस पे रेड करते हैं. Naturally the small businesses which are very small, right, छोटी सी दुकान है किसी की, उन पे ये रेड्स नहीं होती थी. Because why would the GST department or why would the indirect taxes department spend their resources on such small amounts? So they would think that we can get away with this, और वो बिल्स नहीं बनाते थे. राइट? आपको भी पैसे कम देने, डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर को भी पैसे पीछे कम देने. राइट? So they would not create bills. This was the case that used to happen earlier. Because cost of non-compliance ऑल्दो वेरी हाई, अगर रेड होगी तो बहुत हाई कॉस्ट है, बट उसकी प्रोबेबिलिटी बहुत कम है, बहुत कम प्रोबेबिलिटी है कि आपके ऊपर रेड होगी। बहुत सारी शॉप्स हैं, कोई भी बिल नहीं बना रहा, तो आप कहोगे यार वाई कंप्लाई, कॉस्ट ऑफ कंप्लायंस इज वेरी हाई, कॉस्ट ऑफ नॉन कंप्लायंस इज वेरी लो, सो पीपल डिड नॉट अग्री। नाउ जहां कंप्लायंस हो जाती है, wherever the compliance actually happens, wherever the compliance actually happens, states were collecting lot of tax. Wherever this bill was actually made, state were collecting lot of tax. But wherever the bill was not made, state is collecting zero tax. But जो state government है वो कैसे count करेगी? State government will only see the places where bills are actually made. When state government looks at the places where bills are actually made, they are collecting lots and lots of tax. अब आप उनको कह रहे हो कि ये मत करो, जीएसटी कर लो. So they will have to think that on every single bill we will collect less money, but simply more amount of bills will be made, so overall we will make more money. समझ आ रही है ये बात? That state government is thinking कि जहां बिल बनता है, wherever bill is made, we collect lots of tax. आप उनको कह रहे हो कि reduce the rate and come to GST. If you come to GST, the places where bill is made, you will collect less tax, but simply number of bills will increase, so then you will actually get to the final number. Number of bills will increase, so you will get to final number. Is this clear? Did you understand what I said right now? This was the convincing that states needed. This was the convincing that states needed. That is why for the longest time GST was not implemented. For the longest time GST was not implemented क्योंकि states कह रहे थे जहां बिल बन रहा है वहां तो हम बहुत पैसे कलेक्ट कर रहे हैं, बट जहां बिल बन रहा है वहां तो हम बहुत पैसे कलेक्ट कर रहे हैं, राइट? अब अखिलेश, वेरी गुड क्वेश्चन, यही आंसर करने वाला हूं मैं नेक्स्ट. अब what if then states got convinced, finally states got convinced, etc. What if still bill is not made? What if still bill is not made? अब भी बिल नहीं बने तो क्या करें? हो सकता है अभी भी कोई बिल ना बनाए जीएसटी बचाने के लिए, और हो भी रहा है ऐसा, ऐसा तो नहीं है कि 100% कंप्लायंस है. बट अर्लियर हाउ वाज नॉन कंप्लायंस डिटरमिन्ड? पहले कैसे नॉन कंप्लायंस होती थी? अर्लियर हाउ वाज नॉन कंप्लायंस डिटरमिन्ड? Earlier non-compliance was the indirect taxes department would have its discretion. They would survey and they would raid. अब जो सिस्टम है, अब जीएसटी में नॉन कंप्लायंस कैसे है? इन जीएसटी everyone actually benefits from making the bill. Everyone benefits from making the bill, right? Because सबको अपनी प्रीवियस स्टेज से एक इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट लेना है, सबको प्रीवियस स्टेज पे इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट लेना है, एंड देयर इज नो डबल टैक्सेशन, देयर इज नो टैक्स ऑन टैक्स. तो लेट्स से अर्लियर द कंप्लायंस, अर्लियर जो ये सेल्स टैक्स वाला सिस्टम था, सेल्स टैक्स, एक्साइज ड्यूटी, ये वाला जो सिस्टम था, एनी फर्म दैट वाज ऑपरेटिंग इन लेट्स से 3 states would have to submit some 400 forms. 3 states में अगर आप सबमिट, यू आर वर्किंग, you would in this system have to actually submit 400 forms. Now under GST there are only 4 forms, form 1, 2, form 3A, form 3B. There are only 4 forms. So cost of compliance has reduced. Comply करना बहुत आसान है. अब नॉन कंप्लायंस की बात करते हैं. Now what is happening? You have an account with the government. आपके पास एक अकाउंट है गवर्नमेंट के साथ, और सबका है, एप्पल का भी है, एप्पल का भी है, डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर का भी है, ऐसे करके. एंड दिस इज नॉट द 2 स्टेजेस. पहले भी कुछ होगा प्रोड्यूसर, रिटेलर से, डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर से भी रिटेलर होगा, फिर कंज्यूमर होगा. सो ऑल ऑफ दीज पीपल नाउ हैव अकाउंट्स विद द गवर्नमेंट. इवन इफ वन ऑफ देम सेज दैट वी आर डिपॉजिटिंग टैक्स, किसी एक ने बिल बनाया एंड दे से वी आर डिपॉजिटिंग टैक्स, एंड आगे लेट्स से एप्पल सेज वी आर गोइंग टू डिपॉजिट द टैक्स, हम क्यों अपना वो करें, वी आर गोइंग टू डिपॉजिट ऑल द टैक्स. नाउ वेयर विल वी चेक whether someone has given the tax, not deposited the tax? We will check in these account books. So it will be checked on a system. A computer will be checking it. So it is much easier to spot कि एप्पल ने तो टैक्स डिपॉजिट किया, ये कह रहे हैं कि एप्पल ने टैक्स डिपॉजिट नहीं किया, राइट? डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर कहता है मैंने बिल दे दिया, रिटेलर कहता है मैंने नहीं दिया. All of them have accounts and all of them are linked on the system. Since all of them are linked on the system, now it is a systemic detection. पहले कैसी थी? पहले discretionary detection थी. Now in GST there is system based detection. अब सिस्टम पे सबके अकाउंट्स हैं, सबके इनडायरेक्ट टैक्सेस, सबके इनपुट क्रेडिट्स एक जगह पर आ रहे हैं. So now there is systemic detection. In the case of systemic detection, it is much easier to say that non-compliance is happening. So cost of non-compliance now. Cost of non-compliance is very high. Cost of compliance has become lower. Therefore, GST leads to better collection of taxes. Still there are places where GST is not complied to. अब कोई small business था, पहले वो कोई भी फॉर्म नहीं भर रहा था, अब उसे 4 फॉर्म भरने पड़ते हैं. So they will say we are not doing it, but the chances, it's a game of probability. Chances of people complying to GST are much more. Chances of people complying to GST are much more. Is this clear? ये बात समझ आई? Is this clear? Because of this, GST's chances of compliance are much more. Now, one more concept we have to read is called tax elasticity. Tax elasticity. Remember, we have read price elasticity of supply, price elasticity of demand. How does demand respond to price? Elasticity was simply responsiveness. Employment elasticity of growth. How does growth respond to employment or vice versa? Responsiveness is what we are checking. How does employment respond to change in growth? Tax elasticity is also a similar system, checking something called responsiveness. Responsiveness. How does tax collection respond? Tax collection respond. And responsiveness to what? Responsiveness to either change in tax system. अगर हमने नया tax system लगा दिया, this could be one thing. I could check responsiveness to GDP growth. अगर इंडिया की GDP growth हो रही है तो टैक्स कैसे respond करेगा? All of this is checked in tax elasticity. Something like earlier I was in sales tax system. Now I am in GST system. How has my tax collection responded? मेरी tax collection कैसे respond करी है? This could be one thing. One thing could be my GDP is growing by 1% every year, or my GDP is growing by 10% every year. What is the change in my tax collection? When my GDP was 100 rupees, government used to collect, let's say, 10 rupees in tax. Now when GDP is 200 rupees, GDP has increased by 100%. What is the change in tax collection? ये हम पहले देख चुके हैं employment elasticity of growth में. So tax elasticity of growth can also be said. Tax elasticity of change in system, tax elasticity of structural changes, that can also be said, right? That is tax elasticity. Just the name is important. ये term कभी देख लो तो you should not get confused. Now, in GST, cost of compliance is reducing. Tax forms are less, input credit is more. Cost of non-compliance is high, called systematic catching of people who do not comply. So cost of non-compliance is high. Therefore, GST compliance is easier. Now, we have broadly in India right now, although this also we will see after this year's budget, but broadly we have rates of GST at 0%, 5%, 12%, 18%, 28%. Now, किस रेट पे GST लगना चाहिए? Should GST on popcorns be 5%? Should it be 12%? Should it be 18%? किस रेट पे GST लगना चाहिए? This is now decided by GST Council, which you will read in polity. But originally, जब सबसे पहले GST आया, पहली बार भी तो एक बार आया होगा, जब सबसे पहले आया होगा तो सब कुछ एक बार फ्रेशली देखा गया होगा. उस टाइम पे कैसा रेट लगना चाहिए? दैट वाज कॉल्ड रेवेन्यू न्यूट्रल रेट। इस बात को समझते हैं। हमने क्या देखा स्टेट्स के केस में? स्टेट्स को हम क्या समझा रहे हैं? हम स्टेट्स को समझा रहे हैं कि देखो यार, जो टैक्स कलेक्शन है, टैक्स कलेक्शन डिपेंड्स ऑन टू थिंग्स। ऑन वन साइड there are two things on which tax collection depends. One is actual tax rate and one is actual compliance. Tax rate and compliance, right? जब हम ओरिजिनल सिस्टम में थे, लेट्स से जब हम वैट और मॉड वैट सिस्टम में थे, मॉड वैट फॉर सेंट्रल एक्साइज ड्यूटी एंड वैट फॉर स्टेट्स सेल्स टैक्स, जब हम इस सिस्टम में थे, we were, let's say, on 100 rupees of production or 100 rupees of GDP, we were able to collect, let's say, 10 rupees of tax. और 10 को चेंज कर लेते हैं, we were able to collect 30 rupees of tax. Let's say this was what was the original case. हम ये कर पा रहे थे. That does not mean this was the tax rate. This also depends on compliance. कितने लोग मान रहे थे, कितने लोग बिल बना रहे थे, इस पर भी तो डिपेंड करता है. So based on the factors of tax rate and compliance both, at the original in this system, on 100 rupees of production, we were able to collect 30 rupees, right? This does not mean 30 rupees is the tax rate. Tax rate could have been 50%, but only certain out of these 100, only small were complying. तो example के साथ देख लेते हैं. Let's say originally 100 rupees production was happening and इन दोनों का rate मिला के was 50%. Example के लिए बता रहा हूं. Our actual collection was 30 rupees. Our actual collection was 30 rupees. That means अब अगर कोई कंप्लाई करेगा तो फुली कंप्लाई करेगा, सारे टैक्स देगा, और नहीं कंप्लाई करेगा तो एक भी बिल नहीं होगा उसमें, राइट? बिकॉज अल्टीमेटली टैक्स हैज टू कम फ्रॉम द कंज्यूमर. तो या तो कंज्यूमर सारे स्टेजेस का टैक्स देगा या देगा ही नहीं. 100 rupees is production, we are able to collect 30 rupees. That means that on 60 rupees 50% taxation has happened. On remaining 40 rupees no taxation has happened. So 60 का 50% is 30. So on 60 rupees 50% taxation has happened and 30 rupees has been collected. On remaining 40 nothing has happened. Therefore tax rate is 50% and compliance is only being done by 60 people out of 100. Therefore we are able to collect this. अब जब हमें जीएसटी का टैक्स रेट डिसाइड करना है, we have to decide what tax rate should be there in GST. What will we do? We have to take into account this factor. How much will compliance increase? Right? We said that whatever tax rate will be putting for GST, that should be a revenue neutral rate. Revenue neutral. What does this mean? What does this mean? Revenue neutral rate. Revenue neutral rate means that पहले mod VAT and VAT on sales tax, इससे हम 100 rupees से 30 rupees collect कर पा रहे थे. So now, even now, in the new GST system, we will make a system that should be able to collect from 100 rupees 30 rupees only, ताकि consumers पर ज्यादा burden ना आए. हम इतना रेट कलेक्ट कर पा रहे थे पहले, अब भी हम इस हिसाब से बनाएंगे. Earlier the tax rate was 50% and 60 out of 100 people were complying. We estimated that with GST the compliance will get higher. Now maybe 90 people will comply, so we can reduce the rates. अब हम रेट को रिड्यूस कर सकते हैं. हमें 100 में से 30 कलेक्ट करना है, हम रेट रिड्यूस कर लेते हैं, राइट? So now if 90 are complying, on 90 the rate will be there and we have to get to 30. So we can say somewhere around 35% can be the rate. तब भी the revenue that we are overall collecting, the tax revenue that we are overall collecting will stay neutral, because revenue collection depends on two things, tax rate and compliance. So I can say that tax revenue collected depends on, is proportional to compliance and tax rate. Tax revenue collected is dependent on compliance and tax rate. We want to keep this tax revenue collected constant. इस basis पे we will decide the rates. we want to keep this constant. This is going to increase, therefore we can keep this down. इसको we can keep down. Oh, sorry, ulta. My bad. Tax revenue we want to keep constant. Compliance will increase, therefore we can keep tax rate down. तो हम टैक्स रेट कम कर सकते हैं बिकॉज कंप्लायंस इंक्रीज होगी. नाउ यू नीड टू नो कितनी कंप्लायंस इंक्रीज होगी और आपको एस्टिमेट करना पड़ेगा. पहले से तो नहीं पता. इट विल बी एन एस्टिमेशन. फॉर दिस अरविंद सुब्रमण्यम टास्क फोर्स वाज मेड टू आंसर व्हाट शुड बी द रेट ऑफ जीएसटी बेस्ड ऑन इंक्रीज इन कंप्लायंस and depending on revenue neutrality from the previous system, we will decide the GST rates now, right? This is revenue neutral rate. Now, up. Second thing is GST compensation cess. Cess surcharge I'll teach you tomorrow. Last topic in taxation, cess and surcharge. GST compensation cess. अभी compensation cess नहीं पढ़ते. Let's read compensation scheme. GST compensation scheme. What was GST compensation scheme? Before implementation of GST in 2017, states were collecting VAT. Right? States were collecting VAT. अब states को convince करना था कि आप प्लीज GST पे शिफ्ट हो जाओ, आपका रेवेन्यू कम नहीं होगा. स्टेट्स को यही तो डर है कि जो हम टैक्स कलेक्ट कर रहे हैं वो कम हो जाएगा. जीएसटी में रेट्स भी आप कम करोगे, रेवेन्यू न्यूट्रल रेट लगाओगे, कंप्लायंस बढ़ेगी. यू आर सेइंग कंप्लायंस विल इंक्रीज. आई एम नॉट कन्विंस्ड. So central government came up with a different scheme. Central government said, we will give you GST compensation scheme. What is this scheme? Central government says, let's say you are a state. एक स्टेट का एग्जांपल लेते हैं. Let's say हरियाणा. हरियाणा is a state. Haryana today in 2016, Haryana collected 10,000 rupees in its indirect taxes. Indirect taxes से Haryana collected 10,000 rupees in 2016. 2017 से GST आना है. Central government gave this promise to Haryana and all other states that we will assume that if we were in the same system, अगर हम VAT mod system में रहते तो आपका जो टैक्स कलेक्शन था वो 14% से इंक्रीज होता रहता every year. So if you were collecting 10,000 this year, next year you will collect 10,000 plus 1,400 equal to 11,400. Then you will collect 14% of this. So we will assume that for the next 5 years, your tax collection would have kept increasing by 14%. हम ये assume कर लेते हैं कि अगर GST नहीं आता तो आपकी VAT से जो tax collection है वो 14% हर साल बढ़ती रहती. आप जीएसटी लगा लो. यू इंप्लीमेंट जीएसटी. इन केस आफ्टर जीएसटी इन केस योर कलेक्शन इज लेस देन दिस फिगर. ऐसे करके एक 2017 की फिगर आ गई, ऐसे करके एक 2018 की फिगर आ गई, एक 2019 की फिगर आ गई, एक 2020 की फिगर आ गई, ऐसे करके सारी फिगर्स आ गई. इफ आफ्टर इंप्लीमेंटेशन ऑफ जीएसटी यू डू नॉट गेट दिस फिगर, जीएसटी इंप्लीमेंट करने के बाद इफ यू डोंट गेट दिस फिगर, वी विल कॉम्पनसेट द रिमेनिंग अमाउंट. हम कॉम्पनसेट कर देंगे. यू डोंट बिलीव दैट कंप्लायंस विल इंक्रीज, वी आर श्योर कंप्लायंस विल इंक्रीज, सो यू गो फॉर दिस स्कीम. आपका हमने 14% इज अ वेरी हाई नंबर. टैक्स कलेक्शन में 14% इंक्रीज इज वेरी हाई नंबर. So they said that we will compensate you if this is not the figure that you achieve. This was GST compensation scheme. Now, this scheme was made saying that if in these numbers there is a shortfall, center will compensate the states. Such compensation will be collected through a cess on luxury items. Cess क्या होता है हम कल देखेंगे. जब हम कोई luxury items खरीदेंगे तो सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट हमसे सेस कलेक्ट करेगी. उस सेस के अमाउंट से स्टेट्स को कॉम्पनसेट कर देगी 5 साल के लिए 14% ग्रोथ रेट अज्यूम करके. अब हुआ क्या इसमें? टिल देयर वाज नो कोविड, जीएसटी एक्चुअली स्टार्टेड गेटिंग इंप्लीमेंटेड फ्रॉम 1 जुलाई 2017. तो इस डेट से काउंट किया था. टिल देयर वाज नो कोविड, स्टेट गवर्नमेंट्स वर कलेक्टिंग लॉट्स एंड लॉट्स ऑफ मनी. दे वर कलेक्टिंग लॉट मोर मनी देन देयर एक्सपेक्टेशंस. द मोमेंट कोविड केम, जीएसटी कलेक्शंस वेंट डाउन. When GST collection went down, states went to center and said, you have given us compensation scheme, now pay us the compensation. Central government said that this compensation was in case GST collection is down because of compliance, not that GST collection is down due to an act of God, which is COVID-19. तो अब दोनों के बीच में झगड़ा शुरू हुआ कि ये कंप्लायंस की वजह से नहीं हुआ, ये तो कोविड की वजह से, सबका रेवेन्यू डाउन है. स्टेट सेड बट यू हैड प्रॉमिस्ड. देन एन अग्रीमेंट वाज रीच्ड that one, central government will borrow certain money and give to states as interest free loan. Don't have to go into this, purana issue hai, so it has been asked also, and it's old current affairs now, but this agreement was reached because now there was a dispute. States were saying this has happened because of your implementation of GST. Center said this is not because of GST, this is because of COVID, because in the first 2 years you have collected more money, but state said you had promised for 5 years. तो फिर क्या किया गया? For that time of COVID, center borrowed and gave to states, and then this scheme was extended till 2027. 5 साल के लिए इस स्कीम को एक्सटेंड कर दिया गया. Now, this is GST compensation cess. Now, अब पढ़ते हैं टैक्स इवेजन, द प्रोसेस ऑफ टैक्स इवेजन, इवेडिंग टैक्सेस, नॉट पेइंग योर टैक्सेस. ठीक है, टैक्स इवेजन दो तरह से हो सकती है. या तो यू आर अनेबल टू टैक्स सम पीपल, लोग टैक्स दे ही ना, या अपना ट्रू शेयर ना दे. लेट्स से माय टैक्स लायबिलिटी वाज 5000 रुपीज, आई ओनली गिव 3000 रुपीज थ्रू सम इलीगैलिटी. तो या तो आई डोंट पे माय कंप्लीट शेयर या आई डोंट पे एट ऑल. दैट इज टैक्स इवेजन. टैक्स इवेजन रोकने के लिए कौन कौन से प्रोसेसेस हैं इंडिया में, उसको देखते हैं. नाउ, सबसे पहले सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट ने कहा दैट कंप्लायंस कॉस्ट शुड बी लो. पीपल विल पे टैक्स ओनली व्हेन कॉस्ट ऑफ कंप्लायंस इज लो. एंड द स्मॉलर द बिजनेस, इफ यू हैव अ स्मॉल बिजनेस, then your cost of compliance should be very low. because अगर आपको GST में you have to make forms, you have to make accounts, आपको एक अकाउंटेंट हायर करना पड़ेगा, आपको कंप्यूटर पे ये GST भरने के लिए एक IT प्रोफेशनल हायर करना पड़ेगा, then it will increase your cost. you will say I won't comply. और आपको इनपुट टैक्स रेट कैलकुलेट करना है, ये सब करना है. तो गवर्नमेंट ने क्या बोला दैट फॉर स्मॉल बिजनेसेस वी विल कम अप विद अ न्यू स्कीम. इफ योर टर्नओवर इज लेस देन 2 करोड़ अ ईयर, अगर 2 करोड़ से ज्यादा है तो आपके पास यू हैव इनफ एबिलिटी, यू आर जनरेटिंग मोर देन 2 करोड़ रेवेन्यू इन अ ईयर, यू हैव इनफ एबिलिटी टू हायर पीपल. बट इफ योर टर्नओवर इज लेस देन 2 करोड़ अ ईयर, डोंट कैलकुलेट एनी इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट्स. चाहे आपके अब ये सोचो कि हर प्रोडक्ट पे डिफरेंशियल टैक्सेशन भी है, कहीं 12% है, कहीं 18% है, उस हिसाब से पूरा एक इनपुट टैक्स रेट का सिस्टम बनेगा, फिर टैक्स जमा होगा, अकाउंट्स मेंटेन होंगे. वो कहते हैं आप ये मत करो, आपका 2 करोड़ से कम का कॉस्ट है, आप रेवेन्यू है, यू एनीवे कैन नॉट हायर मेनी पीपल. इफ योर टर्नओवर इज लेस देन 2 करोड़, यू जस्ट गिव अस अ फ्लैट रेट ऑफ 15% GST. आप भूल जाओ सारे, यू फॉरगेट what input tax credit you had, you just pay us 15%, and this is optional. If you think this is beneficial for you, do this, or you do the input tax credit system. This system was also proposed, cost GST composition scheme. वो compensation था. This is GST composition scheme. अब ऐसी स्कीम्स आती हैं तो लोग जुगाड़ करते हैं. तो लोगों ने क्या जुगाड़ किया? I am a, let's say, owner of a business that has 10 crore revenue. 10 करोड़ का रेवेन्यू है. I want the composition scheme. There is a 10 crore revenue. I want composition scheme. I want that I should only pay 15%. Otherwise, my liability is getting higher. I will split my company into 5 small companies. And now all of them are doing 2 crore business each. And in पे अब मैं 15% दे दूंगा. So my actual liability becomes 15% of 10 crores, which is lesser than my actual liability. This is one of the examples of an incentive to keep someone this is basically someone voluntarily keeping their company small, because the incentive is against growth. If you grow, इफ यू बिकम बिगर 10 से 100 तो आपकी कंप्लायंस कॉस्ट ज्यादा है. अगर आप बिल्कुल छोटे हो, if it is very small, then compliance cost is lower. So people will voluntarily want to keep their companies small so that they don't pay or they pay less. This phenomena was called by the economic survey as voluntary dwarfism. Voluntary dwarfism. It's a very good keyword that you can use in your mains examination. Now, we are now left with double taxation avoidance agreement, related party transactions, and general anti-avoidance rules. Along with this, we are left with 2-3 topics like cess and surcharge, e-way bills, etc. But I'll stop here today. Tomorrow we will do these small topics. I think first 30 minutes it will take. Then we'll move on to international economics. ठीक है? I hope आपको आज जो पढ़ा है वो समझ आ गया हो. I have taken this much time to teach you GST simply because it is complex and almost everybody mugs this up that input tax credit है, cascading effect नहीं है. But this logic should have been clear to you ताकि आपको रटना ना पड़े. So tomorrow we will continue from here. We will read things like tax reduction at source and some things जो यहाँ पे बोर्ड पे लिखी हैं. And after tomorrow we will continue with international economics. I think one class maybe for international economics or 1.5. So either tomorrow or on Wednesday we will end. So thank you for your patient listening. I'll see you now tomorrow at 10 a.m.